Hello, everyone. Omni-sensei here with What If Light Yagami Was in the Classroom of the Elite? Death Note, Part 2. If you enjoyed this kind of content, please hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Don't forget to check out the original story linked in the description. I hope you enjoy listening. It has not been in the pursuit of pleasure that I have periled life and reputation and reason. It has been the desperate attempt to escape from torturing memories, from a sense of insupportable loneliness and a dread of some strange impending doom. Edgar Allan Poe. Light Yagami sitting across from Karuizawa at the Palette Cafe, I couldn't help but notice the subtle changes in her demeanor. "I wish every day could be like this," she whispered, her voice barely rising above the clatter of dishes. I observed her closely. Some time had passed, and finals were coming near. She tries to hide it, but each day that passed, the light in her eyes seemed to dim ever so slightly, a clear indicator that my plans were progressing smoothly, even if it meant her life was getting worse. "What do you mean?" I probed, feigning ignorance. She hesitated, her gaze lingering on the slice of cake before her. Then, the sharp chime of her phone cut through the moment. "Ding," it echoed, and she snatched it up with an urgency that betrayed her calm facade. "I am sorry, I have to go, Yagami," she stammered, rising abruptly from her seat. "But what about your cake?" I inquired, my tone laced with concern. "You mentioned you haven't eaten today, and it's just arrived." "I'm sorry," she replied, her voice a mere whisper. Standing, I reached for her hand, offering a semblance of support. "Are you okay?" Her eyes lit up momentarily, not because of my gesture but because of the tears that threatened to spill from them. "I am, but I really have to leave now. Just promise we can meet again another day, then I'll definitely be okay," she said, managing a brave smile. "Of course," I assured her, masking my own satisfaction with a smile. As she departed, I settled the bill and followed her as she ran. Ryuk, ever the observer, floated beside me. "Light, I get that the bullying isn't physical, but she's probably reliving a lot of her past trauma. Aren't you pushing her too much? She might do something drastic," he cautioned. "She won't," I asserted confidently. "She still has me. I just need to apply one final push to ensure my influence is forever etched into her psyche. Quick victories are meaningless, Ryuk. I could accept her as she is now, but that's not my desire. Don't mistake my actions for heartlessness. I despise bullying and harm, but this is a necessary evil. I think of all this differently. She will feel happier than ever after all this is over." "Why hasn't she sought help?" Ryuk inquired, his voice tinged with curiosity. "Because the second years have followed my instructions perfectly for the most part. They haven't laid a finger on her or at the least have restrained themselves, making them difficult to punish. At most, they've blackmailed her, leaving no room for intervention. And as you've seen, Karuizawa is doing everything in her power to conceal her predicament from others. Even if someone were to uncover the blackmail, it wouldn't matter. They wouldn't know the full extent of it, and even if they did, they wouldn't be able to prove anything because, for Karuizawa, it's more advantageous to deny those allegations. After all, making such information public would be counterproductive for someone intent on keeping secrets, wouldn't it?" I explained, my voice steady and analytical. Karuizawa, most people avoid their fears, but I'm forced to run to mine. Message second year Yumikwi, hurry to the deserted building east of the school. Miss the 5-minute mark and kiss your school life goodbye. That text shattered my brief peace, the fleeting slice of joy in my day, the rare moment where I wasn't thinking about my future. That's the moment they ripped from me. "You're finally here. A few seconds more and your little secret would have been broadcast to the whole school," Mayo, one of Yumikwi's cronies, sneered. "Hand over your phone," Yumikwi demanded, and I complied, head bowed. "Now that the messages are gone, we can begin." As soon as she finished speaking, Yumikwi's hand flew across my face, knocking me to the ground. It was a first. She roughed me up before but never struck me directly, and it stung more than I expected. "Get up," Yumikwi ordered. I rose to my knees, eyes fixed on the dirt beneath her feet, not daring to meet her gaze. "Well done," she mocked, clapping. "You must be worn out from the run." "Lucky for you, Mayo Suzuki," and I brought you a gift. Mayo, the bag, please. Mayo approached and handed Yumikwi the bag. She pulled out 3 1-liter water bottles, stepped toward me with one, and said, "Open wide. Finish it in one go, and you're free. Fail, and you've only got yourself to blame." The whole thing? But that's impossible, I stammered. Don't talk back. If you can't manage, that's on you. Now tilt your head back, and no cheating, she snapped. Tears started to drip from the corner of my eyes. I was scared. It's true then. There's no one else to blame but me. I tilted my head back, and Yumikwi wasted no time in pushing the bottles opening against my mouth, puncturing the bottom to allow air to flow. I gulped down the water, trying my hardest. I really did, you believe me, right? Gulp. Is this really all my fault? Gulp. Why's changing myself so tough? Gulp. Why's it so hard to find friends who actually care? Gulp. Why are people so self-centered? Gulp. Will I ever meet someone who's different? Gulp. Do I even deserve someone like that? Cough, cough, cough. I choked, water spilling from my mouth as I collapsed. Ha, she barely made it halfway. Yumikwi cackled with her friends. She then grabbed another bottle, walked over, and drenched me with it. I lay there, soaked and muddy, but it was almost comforting. This feeling was becoming my norm. Yumikwi pulled out her phone, likely to record, "Now Karuizawa, if you want to maintain your facade here, start undressing." Her words froze me. I've lost so much already, and yet the world keeps taking. Move it, I'm losing patience. You know what'll happen if you don't. You're filthy anyway, and the sooner you're done, the better. You want this to end, right? Because I can keep this up indefinitely if you don't listen. It doesn't matter. What matters is if I do what Yumikwi says, maybe things can return to normal, even if just for a little while longer. Light Yagami, just a bit more, Kay muttered, her fingers fumbling with her bow tie, then moving to unbutton her shirt. Speed it up, I don't have all day. Yumikwi barked, making Kay's hand shake even more, leaving her standing there, shirtless. "Now the skirt," Yumikwi demanded. That's when I stepped in, my anger barely contained. "Enough, what in the world do you think you're doing?" I snapped, phone in hand, ready to record. They'd picked a secluded spot, hidden at the back of a construction site, away from prying eyes and cameras, surrounded only by tools and the raw materials of a building yet to be. At the sound of my voice, the 3 girls jolted in shock. I saw Kay's eyes widen, tears brimming. "Who are you?" Yumikwi stammered. "Light Yagami, student council member," I declared. "We can explain. This is all a misunderstanding," they started. "No need. I've seen enough," I cut them off, stepping forward. "You can't do this," they pleaded, fear replacing their earlier bravado. "You don't understand." "What is it that I don't understand?" I asked, my tone firm. "We were forced into this. It wasn't our choice," Yumikwi lied, desperation clear in her voice. "If that's the case, this changes things," I said, extending my hand. "I'll need to see your phone." "Why?" she questioned, bewildered. "Are you kidding me? You were capturing inappropriate images of a student. Do you realize the consequences? You could ruin both your academic and personal futures. Hand over the phone. Let me erase whatever you have there. God knows what you plan to do with it," I demanded. Tears streaming down her face, Yumikwi handed over her phone. After ensuring all was deleted, I returned it. "Leave. Report to the student council, and I'll do the same," I instructed, turning to Kay as the 3 girls scurried away. I loosened my grip and approached Karuizawa, who had been silent since my arrival. Kneeling down, I gently touched her hair. "I'm sorry. If I had known sooner, I could have helped." Karuizawa brushed my hand away, tears streaming down her face. "Don't. I'm filthy, worthless. I don't deserve this." "Nobody deserves to be treated like this," I replied, reaching out to her once more. "No." She recoiled. "You don't understand," she cried, breaking down. Her vulnerability gave me the opportunity to comfort her. "Do I need to understand? Does it matter? I care about you, perhaps more than you realize. Do I need to watch you suffer, believing you don't deserve help?" At my words, Karuizawa looked up as if they were a lifeline. "Remember when you said you felt out of place with your classmates?" I asked. She nodded, and I continued, "Perhaps you couldn't trust them, or maybe your experiences being near expulsion changed your view. But Karuizawa, know this, even if you think you can't trust anyone, you can trust me, okay? Before Karuizawa could answer, Ryuk laughed chaotically. You're quite the hero, aren't you, Light? I know, she said, embracing me while hiccuping. After a moment, we parted. Should I take you to the nurse or the dorms? I asked. Not the nurse. I don't want to talk to anyone else right now, and I don't want to be seen like this on the way to the dorms either, she explained, her voice slowly steadying. As she spoke, I could tell just how tired she was. She spoke like someone who had just woken up from sleep. This must have really driven her to her limits. Understood, I said, removing my shirt and offering it to her. You can wear this for now. Let's go to my office in the student council. We'll ensure those three are held accountable. The president should still be there. Ryuk once again spoke up. But Light, aren't you forgetting something? They likely have your classmate's number saved, and they definitely have the transaction logs from when you paid them to bully the girl. They can be expelled? Karuizawa asked, a tiny spark of hope in her voice. Absolutely, I have video evidence, so they will never bother you again. No one will know this situation ever happened. She nodded and stood up. As she did, I noticed a scar on her side. I made a mental note of it and helped her into my shirt, opting to wear just my red jacket. It suits you, I said with a reassuring smile. She blushed slightly. Thank you. Can I hold your hand? Of course, I agreed. Let's go. You must be tired. And with that, while struggling to walk, the exhausted Karuizawa wrapped herself around my arm and rested her head on me as we headed to the student council office. Upon entering the student council room, Tachibana was already there, her gaze briefly shifting to Karuizawa. I was waiting for you, she said. Is this the girl that was? Feeling Karuizawa's grip tighten on me, I quickly interjected, Tachibana, let's keep this matter confidential, shall we? I assume the three girls have already reported their side of the story. Tachibana nodded, her eyes reflecting a touch of sympathy for Karuizawa. Yes, they were quite restless. The president took over their case when your name was mentioned. It seems the situation is escalating, I noted. What do you mean? Tachibana inquired. With a reassuring smile, I replied, inform the president I'll be there shortly, and with a nod, Tachibana departed. I then turned to Karuizawa, unlocking my office door. Take a moment to rest on the couch. I'll handle everything. There's no need for concern. But I don't want this to cause a commotion, she muttered, looking up at me. I'll take care of it. Just relax for now, I assured her. I'm not clean, she said, a hint of embarrassment in her voice. Don't worry about that. Make yourself comfortable, and if you're cold, feel free to use the coffee machine. Stay here until I return, I told her. With a nod of understanding, she settled in as I closed the door behind me and made my way to the meeting room where the president awaited. You finally made it, Manabu says as I step into the room and make my way to the student council's designated seats. I assume you've seen the footage I forwarded to you? I inquire, maintaining a composed tone while observing the three girls seated before the president. Indeed, it was unsettling, to put it mildly. Yet, these three insist they were coerced by someone into harassing their junior, Manabu elaborates as I settle into my chair. And how does that change their current dilemma? Their actions remain reprehensible, I comment, my gaze fixed on the trio of second-year students. Reprehensible indeed. They'll likely still face expulsion, but there's a glimmer of hope for them. However, Yumikwi, the one in the center, alleges that although she typically erased her messages with this so-called puppet master, she had saved their contact in her phone. But upon inspection just now, no such contact exists, Manabu reveals, showing me the girl's phone. It was there, I swear. Yumikwi erupts, rising to her feet and slamming her hands down on the desk. It was definitely there. It must be some glitch, yes, a glitch. You must believe me. We would never willingly bully anyone. We were forced, it's the truth. Yumikwi's desperation is evident as her classmates dissolve into tears, paralyzed in their seats. It appears they're less involved than Yumikwi, or perhaps less informed about her dealings. It's possible she pocketed the majority of the funds I provided, considering the dire point situation in the second-year Class D, a situation I've witnessed firsthand through my work on the student council. Nonetheless, Yumikwi won't wiggle her way out of this. She'll never be able to substantiate any collaboration with anyone else. I made sure to erase all traces of our communication from her phone. When I had her phone to remove the video of Karuizawa, I also deleted Morofuji's number from her contacts and any remaining messages. I even checked for any screenshots, though I doubted someone of Yumiki's caliber would think that far ahead. There's no evidence left of any mastermind on her phone. At this moment, Yumiki is only further entrenching herself and her friends, digging their graves deeper with each passing second, soon to reach the 6th foot. Really, you'd never bully anyone? Tachibana, did you manage to gather the documents I requested and follow up on my earlier inquiry? Manabu questions, receiving an affirmative nod from Tachibana as she places several papers before him. Here's a report I retrieved from the student submission box some time ago. It comes from a first year bringing to light allegations against you three, Misa Yumiki, Fumiko Mayo, and Aoi Suzuki, accusing you of bullying and point extortion. That's a lie. None of that is true. Yumiki objects aggressively. Really? Yumiki is telling the truth. We've done nothing like that. The other two girls finally assert, speaking up in their defense. Manabu gives a slight nod. Indeed, I initially didn't pursue the matter. An anonymous tip without solid proof isn't worth our time. But with concrete evidence of your bullying surfacing, it warranted a closer look. Tachibana had just been instructed to acquire your transaction records from the school for me. Now explain why for the past few weeks you've been receiving payments from Rika Morofuji, the same student who filed the report, he says, his voice even, as he flips the documents in his hand for them to see. Rising from my seat, I feign surprise. Rika Morofuji? From Class C. Do you know anything about this? Manabu inquires, his gaze piercing. No, Rika has been visiting my office frequently, claiming she preferred it over the cafeteria. She had also asked for a return on part of the class tax she had paid to me, saying she needed the money for personal expenses. I trailed off, my voice quivering with false uncertainty. I had no idea. Tachibana gently touches my shoulder. It's all right, Yagami. We can't always be aware of everything. Manabu adds, exactly. We learn from the past and strive to do better. His words are firm, yet not kind. I return to my seat, casting a glance at the three girls before me. Ryuk's voice breaks the silence, and a hint of laughter comes from his mouth. Ah, now I see. That report you slipped in. It's the same one being discussed now, isn't it? Morofuji didn't write it. You did. He's not wrong, but it's unimportant. Rika won't be summoned for this, and even if she were, she knows her lines. I've made sure of that. Yumiki's voice cuts through the tension. Wait, something's off, her panic rising. This can't be right. The end was near, and Yumiki's fate was sealed. She couldn't reveal the transactions as bribes for bullying Karuizawa without incriminating herself and ensuring her expulsion. Even if she tried to argue out of desperation, it would only raise more questions. Why target Karuizawa? And why would Morofuji want her expelled? Only I held the answers to these questions. I had entertained the thought of Nagumo stepping in, as we've never met. I once inquired about his absence from the student council to Manabu, who simply questioned why one would go where they're unwelcome. Despite this, I remained curious about Miyabi Nagumo's character. But it seemed Nagumo was either unaware or indifferent to the current situation. The second years, especially those from Class 2D, were struggling, barely scraping together 10,000 private points a month each. Their expulsion wouldn't even dent Nagumo's vast accumulation of points. To Nagumo, these three were insignificant and hardly worth using as pawns in his games. But to me, they were just the right pieces to move. Manabu finally declared the conclusion of the matter. Our business here is concluded, he stated, gathering his documents. You three are expelled, effective immediately. Hand over your phones. The trio's reactions were telling. Yumiki, confused and gloomy, relinquished her phone. Mayo, still in shock, her face completely blank. And Suzuki, tears streaming down her face, both submitted without resistance. Before everything came to an end, I interrupted with a request. Before you expel them, I have a request, I addressed Manabu, who gave a short nod. Rather than for bullying Karuizawa, expel them for extorting points from Rika Morofuji. Manabu's inquiry was direct. Why? Karuizawa wishes to move past the bullying, to keep it buried and live a normal life. The extortion of points is the smallest infraction they can be expelled for keeping everyone safe from any commotion, I explained, my voice steady. Manabu conceded to my suggestion. Agreed. Tachibana will accompany you to finalize the paperwork, he said, passing the documents to Tachibana. Their expulsion is immediate. Tachibana led the 3 girls out, leaving a heavy silence in their wake. Manabu exhaled deeply shortly after Tachibana exited. What's bothering you? I asked. Expelling students is a last resort, one that affects their futures. Yet, before summer's arrival, I've already signed off on an alarming number of expulsions, he confessed, his voice showing a hint of regret. Nagumo's been on a spree, expelling anyone who dares to oppose him, he added. I understand. It's unfortunate for those who were unjustly expelled, but these 3, they brought it upon themselves, I reasoned with him. You're correct, he conceded. I should be leaving. It's getting late. You should head out as well, he suggested. Acknowledging his advice, I bid him farewell and made my exit. The deed was done, the 3 students were expelled, and Karuizawa's secret remained safe. Even Nagumo would find nothing in the expulsion records to use against us now, no matter how hard he looked. Content with the outcome, I returned to my office. Upon entering, I found Karuizawa waking from her sleep on the couch. As she saw me, embarrassment colored her cheeks red. I'm sorry, I was tired, she mumbled, composing herself. It's fine. You needed the rest. Besides, I have good news. The trio responsible for bullying you has been expelled, I informed her, watching as she processed the information. Really? She whispered, disbelief written across her face. Yes, and the best part is, no one will ever know what happened, just like you wanted, I assured her. Her reaction was immediate and emotional. She lunged forward, embracing me tightly, causing us to fall onto the neighboring couch. Thank you, Light. You can't imagine how much this means to me. I owe you everything, she sobbed, her tears a sign of her gratitude. I returned her embrace, a smile playing on my lips. This is really great. Ishizaki said as he floated on the cruise ship pool surface, embodying the currently carefree spirit of Class C. The 4 classes intermingled, a collective break from the school test. Class C seems completely untroubled, Ichinos observed, her tone light as she addressed our group. You're all without a single concern, aren't you? Her laughter was a soft ripple in the pool as she joined the aquatic reprieve. Surveying the scene, I noted the complete relaxation among my classmates. Some played in the water, while others, like Ryuan, reclined on deck chairs and enjoyed their rest. Ishizaki quickly responded to Ichinos, if Ryuan and Yagami aren't worried about anything, what's there for us to worry about? His words, though simple, capture the essence of Class C's philosophy. We were a class that rarely faced challenges together. Ryuan and I, from the look of things, preferred handling things for the class ourselves. Kei, who was also currently relaxed in the pool with me by my shoulder, nodded, I agree. Her influence in Class D had increased post-midterms, her voice growing louder in the absence of Hirata and Kushida, given their failures in the midterms. Our relationship, now common knowledge, lent her words some weight, though it was also probably suspicious among some. Well, suspicion really doesn't matter in a class at the bottom of the barrel like Class D. The upcoming exam could be a turning point, potentially allowing me to extend my influence to Classes B and A. Although Ryuan seemed to have his own plans for Class A, he seemed interested in their power struggle, but I could take advantage of that. But Karuizawa, you're not even in Class C, are you? Ichinos asked, a hint of confusion in her voice. So what? Kei responded with a frown. Ichinos laughed. Sorry, I suppose it makes sense, given your relationship. Still, it's odd how composed Ryuan and Yagami are, considering they're debated to be the smartest first years. At her words, several students from classes A, D, and B glanced at Ryuan, undoubtedly recalling his involvement in the expulsion of 5 students and the subsequent depletion of their private points. Katsuragi broke the silence. I don't get the fuss. We have an idealist who's good with words and a tyrant who rules by fear. No offense, Yagami, but how did you even manage to impress the student council president? Before I could respond, Ishizaki's temper flared. Hey, don't you dare, Ryuan cut him off, his voice cool and mocking. Calm down, Ishizaki. Jealousy is a hell of a thing, isn't it? Ichinos, also interested, turned her attention to me. Yagami, I'm also curious. How did you manage to get onto the student council? Her question drew the gaze of many. I pressed a finger to my lips, a secretive smile on my face. That's a secret, I replied, enjoying the disappointment that followed. But let's just say the president saw something that impressed him, that's all. Ichino's wasn't discouraged. What about this vacation? My class suspects it's more than just a break. We're expecting a test. Kanzaki sighed from behind her. Ichino's. She faced him, unfazed. What? It's not a secret. I'm sure the other classes have figured it out too. The surprise on the faces of those from classes C and D told a different story, except for those from classes A and B. Ichino's, realizing this, added, well, it's better if everyone is aware anyways. That way it's fair, right? Katsuragi observed the reactions and then spoke. It seems classes A and B are informed, while C is confused and D is panicking. But you two, Yagami and Ryuen, you're both calm. You knew about the test but chose to keep quiet, didn't you? Ryuen shrugged. I see no point in bothering my class without details. Whatever the test, I'll handle it. I nodded in agreement. I was aware, but why spoil the mood? This obviously isn't a test you can prepare for. But rest assured, we'll perform well. Class C accepted my words without question. Their trust in my judgment was evident. Katsuragi, with a steady voice, then asked, I'm curious. Is it true that Class C has agreed to a truce with classes B and D? No, those are just rumors, probably due to my relationship with K. But I haven't made any formal truce with classes B and D. However, should any class require my assistance, I wouldn't hesitate to provide it. His question was direct, seeking clarity. What do you mean? I have no desire to see our school turn into a war zone, with classes constantly at each other's throats, leading to unnecessary expulsions. While some actions may be justified in the spirit of competition, others are simply unreasonable. If a truce with classes B and D, or even a, could prevent such outcomes, I'd readily agree. Katsuragi nodded, understanding dawning in his eyes. You're aiming to prevent incidents like the midterms, or worse, he concluded, glancing at Ryuen. Ryuen's response was laced with his usual sarcasm. Still holding a grudge, Yagami? I already apologized, didn't I? I sighed inwardly as Ichino's chimed in, her smile warm and genuine. I wouldn't be opposed to such an idea. I, too, wish to graduate with everyone I started this journey with. It would be truly regrettable to see anyone missing at the end due to avoidable circumstances. It's something we should strive to prevent together. Kanzaki's voice was firm, yes, though it's a matter that requires further conversation for obvious reasons. It was clear that Class B wouldn't be as easy as I had hoped. Kanzaki seemed intent on engaging in the competition as the school envisioned, and while Ichino shared my basic ideals, I doubted she would easily surrender any control over her class to me unless a situation really required her to. If the situation persisted, I might have to assert control over classes A and B more forcefully. Time will tell how things unfold. As the ship's announcement system came to life, urging students to gather on deck for a promised view, most heeded the call. Only a few remained seated. Kay turned to me, curiosity in her eyes. You're not going? I remained seated, unfazed. No need. If there's something noteworthy, I trust someone from our class will notice it. Still in the pool with us, Sheena looked up with a thoughtful expression. I'm sure you'd notice if something were off, she said, her curiosity piqued. Ryuen, lounging on his chair, dismissed the idea with a wave of his hand. Even if there were something, it wouldn't matter much at this stage. The real test hasn't started yet. Besides, Yagami and I have a pretty good hunch about what's coming. Sheena's eyes widened. It seemed like the mystery lover in her couldn't resist. Really? She asked, turning to me excitedly. I nodded, sharing my thoughts. It's odd, isn't it? They asked us to bring gym clothes on a cruise. That's not typical vacation gear. It suggests this vacation will require more physical activity than a vacation should. The announcement earlier? It was practically telling us to start scouting. My bet is that the classes will be pitted against each other in some sort of survival challenge. Manabe swam closer, impressed. You pieced that together from just a few clues? That's pretty amazing. The announcement system crackled to life again, instructing us to change into athletic wear and gather on deck. We're approaching the island. Remember your phones, but leave everything else behind. And use the restroom now, it might be your last chance for a while. Ryuan stood up, smirking. Right on cue, he said. I glanced back at the girls in the pool. We should get moving. You'll probably want to dry off before changing, I suggested. As I walked off, Kay caught up to me. What's up? I asked. She looked away, a hint of reluctance in her voice. Just wanted to say goodbye, in case we're separated for a while. I teased her gently. Is it that hard to say goodbye? Shut up, she huffed, her gaze still averted. You know, I could be useful to you in this exam. We could set up a meeting point. I could give you information about my class that should help you, right? It's not like my class has anything to lose. I placed a hand on her cheek, reassuring her. Thank you, Kay, but I'm not worried about gathering intel. I'll miss you, but it's safer if we lay low. If anyone caught on to our secret meetings, even if you weren't giving me information, it could mean trouble. Let's just wait it out. I understand, Kay said, her voice steady. I offered her a reassuring smile. Just be yourself until we can talk again. If it gets tough, just think about how we'll reunite after this test is over. That's what I'll be doing. She nodded with a smile, and we parted ways. As I walked toward my room, Ryuk's voice echoed in the air. She's completely dependent on you, Light. That was always part of the plan, and it doesn't look like that's going to change, I replied confidently. Ryuk chuckled. Be careful, Light. You've caught the attention of many girls. It's not wise to play with so many hearts. Remember those crime shows we used to watch? The cheating husbands always meet a harsh end. I couldn't suppress a laugh. That's not always the case, Ryuk. Sometimes it's the other way around. The husband eliminates the evidence, I joked, slipping into my athletic gear. Are you certain you can ace this test without making use of your little girlfriend's help? Ryuk asked. Why don't you just watch and learn? I responded, stepping out of my room and making my way to the ship's deck. Arriving at the deck, I saw students from all classes lined up. I quickly joined the front of the line for Class C, standing beside Ryuan waiting for further instructions. Class A will now start descending onto the island. Please hand over your phones to your teachers before disembarking, came the announcement. When it was Class C's turn, Sakagami collected our phones, and we were searched thoroughly, like convicts. A roll call followed, ensuring every class member was accounted for. As the roll call concluded, Mishima-sensei, the teacher of Class A, ascended a platform by the shore. His presence commanded attention. I'm pleased to see most of you here, except for one absent due to health reasons. Let's embark on your first challenge of the year. This exam will span a week, concluding on August 7th. Consider this island your new home. I'm eager to witness how each class unites to face this test, he declared, pausing for reactions that never came. The students were too engrossed in his words. No one may return to the ship without valid cause. Survival here will test your abilities to preserve, from securing shelter to finding food, he continued. A Class D student protested. This is crazy. How did our vacation turn into some survival reality TV show? Mishima-sensei retorted with a sly grin. Class D with 5 fewer mouths to feed. You should stop complaining and view this as an advantage over the other classes. Ryuan's laughter erupted. Ha ha ha, that was a good one, he stated, joined by chuckles from Class C students and some others from different classes, who were taken by surprise by Mishima's words. Class C, don't grow overconfident. When it comes to genuine teamwork, you may very well be the weakest link here, Mishima-sensei warned. Ryuan, unfazed, shot back, ultimately it won't matter. Mishima-sensei eyed Ryuan before resuming, regardless, I doubt survival will be your greatest concern. This island might just become the location of some fond memories for all of you. Here's a clue for you, freedom that is the essence of this test. Freedom, is it? I mumbled quietly. Each class starts with 300 points. Spend them as you wish. You could even continue your vacation if you wish. You will all receive a manual detailing purchasable items and their costs, alongside essential survival tips. But remember, the points remaining at the exam's end will be added to your class's total points, Mishima-sensei explained. His words sparked talk among the students. I too was deep in thought. This couldn't merely be a test of restraint. That would be too simplistic. After all, there are those who are truly talented, effortlessly achieving what takes others years of effort. And this school seems to hold talent in high regard. Note that Class A will commence with only 270 points due to the absence of a student. A penalty of 30 points per student withdrawal applies, he added. Following his announcement, our teachers equipped us with wristwatches, instruments we were forbidden to remove, serving as both GPS and health monitors. They briefed us on the basic regulations while securing the devices. Pollution discovered incurs a 20-point penalty, and missing roll call at 8 a.m. or 8 p.m. costs 5 points per absentee. Naturally, any violence or damage to other classes' assets would result in immediate disqualification from the test. After Mishima's briefing, Sakagami-sensei approached us with a stern look. Let's delve into the specifics now that the basics are covered, he announced, ensuring he had our undivided attention. You'll soon have the freedom to explore the island, but be aware that certain areas can be claimed. A claim grants exclusive rights for 8 hours. After that, it's up for grabs again. Claiming spots also comes with a 1-point bonus, tallied at the exam's end. He detailed everything methodically. Only a designated cardholder from each class can stake these claims. Choose wisely, as changing the cardholder requires a solid reason. At the exam's conclusion, you can attempt to identify other classes' cardholders. Correct guesses earn you 50 points, incorrect ones cost you the same, and if your cardholder is guessed, you lose 50 points, he continued. Decide on your cardholder by tonight's roll call at 8 p.m. Once you've made your choice, come to me for the keycard, he concluded. As Sakagami-sensei finished, I realized the stakes were higher than initially presented. A strategic game of cat and mouse for 150 points. Ryuan beckoned me with a sly smirk. Let's leave our classmates for now. I have a proposition for a more peaceful summer vacation, he suggested. I followed, intrigued. I think I understand what you are aiming for. I inquired. I wouldn't have pulled you aside if I didn't think you'd catch on, he replied as we approached Katsuragi, Class A's leader. Wanna cut a bargain? Ryuan proposed. The deal was simple yet bold. 800,000 private points monthly in exchange for Intel and Class C's equipment. I didn't think it was a bad idea. 800,000 private points isn't a small amount, and our class isn't made for teamwork. It was still possible to come out in first place even if we used all 300 points allotted to our class. Plus, if I wanted to rule my school year, I've already concluded financial power will be important, so Class A with deep pockets is a problem for me. If we can steal 800,000 points a month from them, I wouldn't complain. This deal could definitely weaken Class A significantly under the right circumstances. I'm a bit surprised you're not fighting me on this plan to win the game, Ryuan remarked casually, lounging on his beach chair. It was day 2 on the island, and everyone was treating the exam like a holiday. Our campsite was decked out with all the amenities of a luxury resort, minus the actual resort. From the comfort of our tents to the chilled sodas and barbecue grills, it was all there, even a volleyball net. And with everyone in swimwear, you'd never guess we were here for an exam. Your strategy isn't bad, I admitted. It's clear that getting our class to work harmoniously would be difficult, so I would say 800,000 points each month is a reasonable amount to gain even if we have to give up on the main portion of the test. Plus, there's still a shot at gaining 150 class points. Sure, we could creep closer to Class A if we played by the book, but we need to be realistic about our position and what we stand to gain by taking a step back. As for your spying scheme, I'm not exactly a fan, but if a bookie and Kaneda are on board, if Class A means that much to them to reach Class A, then it's out of my hands. Before long, Ishizaki came running towards us, panting. Hey! He shouted as he approached. Some dude from Class A is lurking in the woods. He's asking to speak with one of you. Ryuan and I shared a knowing look. This could be a traitor from the Sakayanaji camp aiming to sabotage Katsuragi, or perhaps a trap set by Katsuragi himself. Can you handle it? I've got other matters to attend to, I said coolly. Ryuan's sharp. He'll figure out this stranger's intentions, whether they're genuine or not. Really? What kind of matters? He inquired, rising to his feet. Nothing major. Just some scouting. We have our informants, but I prefer to verify certain details firsthand, I explained. All right then, good luck, he said, heading off. As he disappeared, I made my way into the dense woods. Ryuk, did you get a chance to look around the island while you were out getting apples? I inquire. It turns out that apples straight from the wild taste way better than the ones from the store, Ryuk remarks. I can't help but chuckle at his response. Come on, I'll show you where the classes are, Ryuk offers. Actually, I'm interested in Class B specifically, I tell him. Huh? Why's that? Ryuk wonders, veering off in a new direction. Well, you said Class A's hold up in a cave, right? Not much I can do there. And Class D? I'm waiting for their leader to make a move, I explain. That's odd. Usually, you say the one who moves first has the upper hand, Ryuk points out. That's often the case, but not always. Take chess, for example. The player who goes first, white, has an edge if they make the right moves. But against a beginner who barely knows how the pieces move, that advantage isn't as strong. Making a bad opening move like h3 can waste it, I elaborate. So you're saying Class D's leader is at a crippled? Ryuk probes. Ha ha ha, you could say that, but it's not literal like Arisu Sakayanagi's situation. Think about it, why do newcomers to chess play moves like h3? I pose the question. Ryuk pauses, then says, because they're cautious, right? They're trying to be safe and test the waters. Exactly. They see h3 as a safe bet, letting the other player take the risks. But they miss out on crucial strategies like controlling the center and developing their pieces. If their opponent knows what they're doing, they're in trouble, I clarify. So what's your interest in Class D's leader? You must see some potential, yet you call them crippled, Ryuk observes. They're crippling themselves by staying hidden. We've confirmed they're lying low, which limits their options. All their moves are weaker than if they were out in the open. I'm curious about Class D's true leader because they've managed to achieve things despite being hidden. It's not much, but it shows their potential, especially in manipulating others. That's why I'm letting them make the first move, I conclude. I get it now. This could turn out to be quite the game, Ryuk says, a hint of thrill in his voice. We're here. Class B's area is just up ahead. At his words, I slip behind a tree, stealing glances at Class B's camp. It's only day 2, yet they're working together like a well-oiled machine. It's the kind of camp you'd expect from a well-planned outing, nothing too extravagant, but there's a sense of ease in the air. Light, are you planning to look for their terminal? Finding it could lead us straight to Class B's leader, couldn't it? Ryuk probes. I whisper back, it's not worth the effort. Class B might be naive, but they're not fools. They probably have scouts checking the area before they update their terminal. And a single spying attempt won't confirm who holds their card if they're using any tricks. Plus, snooping around their camp isn't the brightest idea. I could draw attention or bump into one of their members, putting them on high alert. If I just stay here and remain alert, that's way less likely. And who's to say their terminal is even out in the open? So what's the point of being here? He questions. I'm here to gather intel, no matter how minor or unclear, I reply. 15 minutes pass before Ryuk speaks up again. What kind of information can you get by just watching? More than you'd think. Patience is key, Ryuk, I answer. Another quarter of an hour slips by, and Ryuk breaks the silence. Do we really need to do this, Light? It's boring, and besides, isn't that Kaneda guy from your class going to be keeping tabs on Class B? Why bother yourself? It's not about necessity. But would I really rely on whatever Kaneda comes back with? That's never been my style, I retort. So, have you figured anything out yet? He asks. Consider this, Ryuk. Which type of class do you think would take the longest to decide on their cardholder? He's puzzled. I don't follow. What do you mean? Think about it. If a class lacks greedy or ambitious members, they'd quickly agree on a cardholder, right? The decision would hinge on who's seen as the most suitable choice. With that logic, it's likely Class B settled on their cardholder swiftly, given their personalities. You're not suggesting you figured out who Class B's cardholder is, are you? Ryuk inquires. I let out a soft laugh. No, Ryuk, even I have my limits. I can't pinpoint exactly what Class B looks for in their cardholder. Generally, one would look for capability, stealthiness, or both if possible. I can't say for sure which trait Class B prioritizes, but it narrows down the list of suspects significantly. The real point is, Once a class decides on their cardholder, what's the first thing they do? Ryuk muses, I'd say they'd hurry to find the best spot to set up camp before anyone else. That's right. So, Class B must have staked their claim early on. The test started at around 10, and they quickly moved from the starting point to choosing their cardholder. Then, they likely split up to scout for a base camp. Considering this island isn't that large, and this spot is about a half hour from where we landed, it probably took them an hour to find this place. Then, another half hour for everyone to regroup and move here together. By my estimate, it would have taken Class B at least 2 hours to secure this camp. And why does that matter? Ryuk probes. It means they would have claimed this spot by noon yesterday. They'd need to reclaim it at 6 p.m. the same day and then again at 2 a.m. this morning, I explain, glancing at my watch. It's 9:40 a.m. now, so it's likely they'll need to reclaim this location soon. Of course, my analysis might be slightly off. I don't know if Class B faced any delays while searching for a camp. For a solid 2 hours, I was silently observing hidden within the trees, watching every move and every interaction. What was I observing? Everything. Ichinos was the group's heart, mingling and assisting without claiming any specific role. She was the glue holding everyone together, offering help with a smile that seemed to brighten the entire camp. Shibata, not quite as magnetic as Ichinos but still a central figure, was the go-to guy for many. His popularity was evident, and his athletic build was put to good use as he easily tackled the physical tasks around the camp. Amakura, another standout in Class B, drew people to her with an almost magnetic charm, though she didn't quite reach Ichinos' level of popularity. Her strength lay in her ability to connect with everyone, sticking to simpler tasks but always surrounded by classmates. Kenzaki was the thinker, the planner. He might not have had the social pull of the others, but his intelligence was undeniable. While Ichinos inspired effort, Kenzaki ensured that effort was applied effectively. He moved through the camp, offering assistance wherever needed, and he did so effortlessly. These four were the pillars of Class B, with Ichinos and Kenzaki standing a notch above in terms of leadership. I didn't stop there. I watched the others too, their tasks, interactions, and even their breaks. Even from a distance, actions speak volumes. Who seeks company, who is sought after, the length of their breaks, their preferred hangout spots. All these details I meticulously noted until I was satisfied. Okay, I whispered to myself, stepping away from the tree that had been my cover, making my exit from the forest as quietly as I had entered. Did you learn anything? We were here for over 2 hours in total, Ryuk said. Yes. I'm almost certain of it, I reply. Really? Who is it? How did you figure it out? Ryuk inquires. Chihiro Shiranami, I state. It's quite straightforward. Even before arriving here, I knew of Shiranami's timid nature in Class B. If I had to assess her as a student, I'd say calling her average is the most one could say. She is neither particularly bright nor dumb, and physically she is below average. I can see from here she's not cut out for strenuous activity. Socially, she's reserved but not isolated, placing her just below the average mark. Ryuk nods. She does seem like your typical high school student. Nothing remarkable at first glance. I consider his words. What tasks would suit someone of her abilities in a camp setting? Someone of average intellect, limited physical prowess, and moderate social presence. Perhaps something straightforward and undemanding, Ryuk suggests, like laundry or sorting tasks, organizing clothes, food, or equipment. Indeed, there are numerous roles: cooking, cleaning, waste management, inventory checks, or simply circulating information within the class. But then, why include her in the group of 10 sent to the forest to collect firewood? Ryuk gazes at me but doesn't respond to my question. Gathering food and firewood demands physical strength and intellect. We're on an island, Ryuk. The terrain is tricky to manage, and it's easy to lose one's way. As outlined in the booklet and briefing, the island harbors poisonous fruits and plants, nothing that would kill you, but risky nonetheless. It requires some intellect to forage safely, and Shiranami doesn't fit the profile for such tasks physically and may just barely fit it intellectually. Moreover, the search commenced shortly after 10 a.m., the time I deduced Class B's terminal would need reactivation. Shiranami's inclusion is an anomaly. She was out of breath upon return, unlike the others. It's illogical, considering the efficiency of all Kenzaki's groups. I elaborate. my voice laced with the confidence of my deductions. Perhaps, but Shiranami's choice to work in collections could just be a simple preference, Ryuk suggests. Unlikely but true, although it's not just her role at the camp that raises questions. Two other details strike me as odd, I continue. Before heading out, Shiranami forced small talk with Ichinos and Kenzaki. That's not unusual, although it does go against the more reserved character we know her to be. But what really interested me was that upon her return, she reverted to her more isolated ways. She engaged in brief chats with those nearby, including Ichinos, but she didn't attempt to converse with Kenzaki, who was also part of the collection team. It's as if they had matters to discuss beforehand, but nothing to say after. Then there's the final piece that adds to my suspicion, I say, glancing down at my wrist. It is her watch. Her watch. Ryuk echoes, puzzled. Exactly. Shiranami, along with Ichinos and Kenzaki, kept a vigilant eye on the time before departing for collections. On this island, punctuality is hardly a concern. There are no strict deadlines. So why the constant time checks? Well, there is one task that time is important in regard to, the refresh of the terminal. It might seem trivial, but once the collection team left, Ichinos, who remained in camp, stopped her frequent glances at her watch as if there was previously something to worry about that was no lingerie issue. The same happened with Kenzaki and Shiranami upon their return from collecting necessities. Kaneda will observe Class B, and if his findings differ significantly from mine, I'll disregard his report. If you're correct, then Class B's choice for their cardholder was based on who they thought was the most discreet figure in the class, Ryuk concludes. Exactly, I affirm as we make our way back to Class C's camp. Light, someone is nearby, Ryuk's voice cut through the silence, a hint of amusement in his voice. I halted, the realization setting in that retreating would trap me between the encampments of Class B. I stood still, straining to catch any sound that might reveal more information, but instead, two figures emerged before me. Why did he have to send us out here? The girl before me grumbled, locking eyes with me. Masumi Komuro, not exactly the talk of Class A, but certainly one of Sakayanagi's main followers. Beside her stood Ai Morishita, her purple hair a match for Komuro's, though she remained a mystery to me for the most part. A pleasant surprise encounter with members of Class A. How has your class been doing? I greeted, offering a hand. Morishita regarded my hand with a mix of curiosity and indifference, while Komuro outright dismissed the gesture. You're hiding something, aren't you? Morishita inquired, her tone laced with suspicion, but I kept my composure. And what might that be? I retorted, lowering my unshaken hand. As we ventured into the woods, we found you motionless. Odd, don't you think? It's as if you were alerted by something, perhaps us. Morishita probed further. Well, are you hiding something? Komuro pressed, her gaze sharp. Ryuk chuckled from the shadows. What's your move, Light? I weighed my options. They were here on a mission, likely to scout the area. Any deception on my part would be futile. The only notable location nearby was Class B's camp. With a resigned sigh, I conceded, there's no use in lying. I was spying on Class B. Their base is not far from here. I trust this stays between us. Komuro gave a subtle nod of acknowledgement. Morishita, however, stepped closer, her action strange as she sniffed me. You carry the scent of seawater, she observed, tilting her head up to gauge my reaction. Indeed, my class's base is near the shore. I was there not long ago, I replied, maintaining a composed facade. I see, Morishita mused. Then what brings you to spy on Class B? Komuro interjected with a hint of irritation. We're here on Katsuragi's orders, not to make friends. I want to leave as soon as possible. Morishita countered, her curiosity undimmed. My interest lies not with the class or Katsuragi, but with the island itself. I don't care about what Kajiraji wants, and I know you don't either. I overlooked Komuro's annoyance and addressed Morishita's question. I was hoping to get an idea of their strategies for the exam and perhaps identify their cardholder. So you're Light Yagami, right? She inquired, and upon my confirmation, she circled me, assessing. You're quite perceptive, though I should have anticipated as much. I offered a modest shake of my head. Your intuition may surpass mine. She returned the gesture, her voice tinged with reluctance. It's too soon for such judgments, though I must confess you intrigue me. Since you've entertained my questions, I invite you to ask one of your own. Are you aligned with either of Class A's main factions? I asked. Her response was tinged in nonchalance. An interesting question. I suppose you're still gauging my trustworthiness. I am affiliated with neither. Their squabbles hold no appeal to me. While skeptical, I acknowledged her potential as a noteworthy member of Class A. Such talents would indeed be wasted in their petty conflicts. You seem quite capable on your own, I remarked. Is that so? While I question the sincerity of your praise, I'll accept it graciously, she replied. Please do, I extended my hand. I look forward to a future friendship. Morishita hesitated, her preference for distance clear, yet she conceded it would be disrespectful to refuse, and accepted the handshake. Kamuro's impatience broke through. Are we finished here? I'd rather not waste any more time. My apologies, I said, stepping aside. Time does escape us when engaged in stimulating discourse. Farewell for now. As I departed, their voices faded into the forest. Kamuro's voice was a whisper. It's odd to see you so talkative. You're usually really quiet. Morishita chimed in. When we first crossed paths in the woods, he seemed off. I can't put my finger on it, but like Yagami, he has something up his sleeve. Quiet down. He's not far off, Kamuro cautioned, and that was the last I overheard as I made my way back to Class D's encampment. Ryuk's chuckle echoed in my head. You were panicking just now, weren't you? Panicking? Hardly, I retorted. Though I'll concede, the girl did surprise me. I hadn't pegged anyone in Class A to be so perceptive without my notice. And if she's as sharp as I suspect, she and Kamuro might have pieced together that either I or Class C intend to take this exam seriously. And does this alter your grand plan? Not in the slightest. As you've observed, she claims to be a loner, unaffiliated with any faction, and Kamuro is under Sakayanagi's thumb. They're in the dark about whether it's just me or all of Class C taking this seriously. I need to get closer to Morishita. She may prove to be a valuable asset. With my plan in mind, I continued towards the Class C base, arriving promptly. The scene was just as I left it. Students gathered around, enjoying a barbecue on the beach. Ryuan raised an eyebrow at my return. Back from your little adventure, Yagami? Or did you just lose your way? I flashed a confident grin. You'd be surprised at the scale of this place. Ryuan leaned in, a smirk playing on his lips. Cut the act. Find out anything interesting. I want to keep my cards close to my chest, not fully ready to share my deductions about Class B's leader. I've located the camps for Classes B and D, I offered, a half-truth at best. Ryuan's interest was piqued. And where might those be? Class B has nestled themselves westward, deep in the forest. Follow the river to a waterfall. They're camped nearby. Hard to miss, I instructed with deliberate vagueness. And D. I relayed the information as Ryuk had whispered it to me. Northeast from Ichino's camp or northwest from ours. Look for a gentler river and a stand of large oaks. Ryuan nodded, satisfied. Good. That'll make tonight's task easier for our scouts. Tonight, huh? I thought to myself. Ryuan's strategy was sound, albeit predictable. Sending Kaneda to spy on Class B was a decent move. He wasn't seen as a threat, which could work in our favor. As for Ibuki, her known association with me and disdain for Ryuan would add credibility to her cover. The real question was how others would perceive my lack of intervention. Would they see it as a betrayal, or would they see it as a choice to protect the majority? This could raise suspicions, but it was a risk I was willing to take. I turned the conversation back to Ryuan. What about the Class A visitor earlier? What did he want? Ryuan's smile widened, revealing a hint of disdain. That guy? A real piece of work. Offered up his class leader, Yahiko Tatsuka, for a handful of points. So, his allegiance is with Sakayanagi, then? Allegiance. Ryuan laughed sharply. That traitor doesn't know the meaning of the word. He's looking out for himself and his position in Class A. It was Hashimoto, if you're curious. I nodded, piecing together the implications. Self-preservation, then. Sakayanagi must hold quite the sway if he's willing to go to such lengths to ensure her leadership. Ryuan's nod was all the confirmation I needed. The next day I turned to Shina, the waves gently lapping at the shore beside us. It's rather boring here, don't you think? Sheena glanced up from her spot on the sand, a serene expression on her face. Not at all. I do miss my books, but there's a certain peace in these quiet moments. Her response caught me off guard. I assumed you'd be happy to return to the ship. She shook her head slightly. The open air has its charms. What about you, Yagami? I'm mostly indifferent though, given the choice, I might lean towards staying, I admitted. Sheena looked puzzled. But you just said it was boring here. That's true, I conceded. But I have a hunch that won't be the case for much longer. Sheena's voice dropped to a whisper. Ryuan warned us not to pry, but you're aware of what happened to Kaneda and Ibuki yesterday afternoon, aren't you? I met her gaze, acknowledging her insight. You're perceptive, Sheena. While Ryuan plays his cards close to his chest, he's made it clear to everyone he has no plans to abandon this exam. He may have exiled those two, but in reality, they're gathering intelligence for us. Sheena nodded, her eyes reflecting a disinterest in the underlying schemes. I had my suspicions. To be honest, the competition doesn't intrigue me. I've said it before, but I'm here for different reasons than most. I understand. No one will force you to participate. My aim is Class A, but not at the expense of our collective happiness, I assured her. She offered a small smile of gratitude, and then her attention shifted. It seems we have visitors from Class B. Following her gaze, I spotted Ichinos, Kenzaki, and a few others approaching. None were particularly noteworthy, but their arrival promised a shift in the monotony. It was about to get interesting. I guess I should get up to greet them, I said to Sheena, who nodded as I stood. As I approached, it was clear this meeting wasn't by chance. Class B was scouting, but they were more direct about it. Good afternoon, Yagami. How are you? Ichinos greeted me as I joined her group and Ryuan. I'm doing well. I hope the same for all of you, I replied, receiving a nod in return. Ryuan smirked. You came to say hi to our Class B friends? Yes, it's nice to see some new faces, I responded. Ryuan called out across the beach, Ishizaki, get us and our guests something nice to drink. And don't forget the ice. Ichinos quickly interjected, oh no, it's fine, Ryuan, don't worry about it. We have plenty of supplies, and they'll go to waste soon anyway, Ryuan assured her. Kenzaki spoke up, actually Ryuan, I'm curious. From what Kaneda told us and what you just said, you don't plan on taking this exam seriously, do you? Not at all. I plan to enjoy my time on this island and then head back to the cruise ship with my class, Ryuan replied, glancing at our lounging classmates. Kenzaki turned to me. Yagami, are you okay with this? Don't you want to see your class succeed? Of course I do, but if this is the path my class chooses, I won't force them. There will be plenty of opportunities to move up from Class C in the future, I told Kenzaki. I see. Since you don't plan on participating in this exam, it wouldn't be a problem if you told us who holds Class C's keycard, right? We'd need to see the keycard, of course, Kenzaki asked. Kenzaki. That's not why we're here. Don't listen to him, Ichinos said, bowing slightly. Ryuan stayed silent for a moment. I hadn't expected anyone from Class B to be bold enough to ask for our keycard. But with me and Ryuan in Class C, they must be suspicious. It's better to sell the idea that we're not trying in this exam. No, it's fine, Ichinos. It really doesn't affect us, I said with a smile, drawing their attention to me. Class C would have no problem handing over our card holder. The members of Class B were visibly surprised. Just then, Ishizaki arrived with a bucket of ice and drinks, placing it next to Ryuan's walkie-talkie. I brought the drinks as requested, Ishizaki said, sounding proud but tired. Good job. Seems like you're not entirely useless, Ryuan said, taking a bottle of sparkling water while Kenzaki, Ichinos, and the rest of Class B just stared. Kenzaki spoke up, wait, so if I understand correctly, you'd just be willing to give up the Class C keycard? He asked for clarification. Saying we would just give up the keycard might be an oversimplification. This is still an exam, and we're still competing outside of it, and helping a rival will be disadvantageous to us in the future, so we'd expect something in return. Points, specifically. I'm sure we could work out a deal, I explained. Points? He repeated, thinking. How many? I think 300,000 points a month until graduation would be fair. 50 class points are equivalent to 200,000 private points, and class points are more valuable than private points. So, I think this exchange is fair, I responded. As I spoke, I saw a slight smirk appear on Ryuan's face before instantly fading. And soon, one appeared on Ryuk's too. Hehehe, I've seen what you've done. You know Class B can't sustain such a large purchase, don't you? Because they had to save 2 members of their class. They already used a lot of points. By paying you 300,000 points a month, they might not have many points left for personal expenses or taxation, which would be necessary if many points were used in saving 2 members of the class. It was as Ryuk said. Using points wasn't something Class B could do mindlessly. If Kanzaki and Ichinos were cautious and cared more about their classmates than their class position, they'd decline my offer. While 300,000 points for our keycard wasn't a horrible deal, it would definitely put stress on Class B. After a moment, Kanzaki spoke. I see. It's way outside our price range, sadly, he said. I see, that's unfortunate. On a different note, how did you guys find our camp? I asked, directing my question to Ichinos and Kanzaki. Ichinos smiled before answering. Truth is, it was a total coincidence. We've had groups scouting the island for food or good fishing spots. A day ago, one of those groups told me they found Class C's camp, so I thought I'd pay a visit. Ah, I see. That makes sense. Well, I'm glad you did, I responded. Ryuan then spoke up. So, do you two plan on enjoying yourselves here with us? We've got plenty to do, if you know what I mean, he said with a smirk. I think we have the perfect bikinis for you, Ichinos, if you want to take a swim with me on the beach, he continued, watching her reaction closely. She seemed surprised, but not too bothered. It was clear she wasn't easily offended. Maybe when we get back on the cruise ship, both our classes can enjoy some relaxing time by the pool. I don't think it's right for me to enjoy myself here while my classmates are working hard back at our camp. Kanzaki nodded in agreement. Yes, we should probably be getting back, he said, glancing at the bracelet with the time given at the start of the exam. With that, the duo left, leaving just me and Ryuan. What do you think? Ryuan asked me. I doubt there'll be a threat, but I have a suggestion if you want to guarantee we come out on top. Oh. Ryuan questioned. Class B is allied with Class D, that's common knowledge. Both classes we sent spies to our allies. They know you like to play dirty. We're playing a risky game, and I think both classes will be more than just suspicious of the spies we've sent. Kaneda in Class B and Ibuki in Class D. It's also safe to say Class D will visit us soon. Given their alliance, they will quickly learn about our camp if they haven't already. So, what are you implying? Ryuan asked with a frown. One mistake is all it will take for Class D or B to figure out that Kaneda and Ibuki are after their keycards. Once they confirm their suspicions, figuring out Class C's leader will be child's play. I have a plan. If you hand over the reins for this exam to me, then, no, Ryuan responded quickly. This is my class. We play by my rules. I respect your opinions, Yagami, just as I respect those of Shina or even Kaneda to an extent. But let me make one thing clear, there's no one more capable than me in this school. So there's no reason for me to do anything but respect your opinions. If you truly think you're more capable than me and want to take the reins of our class, then you'll have to do it by force. Ryuan stared me down as he crushed the bottle in his hand. So what will it be? In the background, I could hear Ryuk's relentless laughter at the way I got shut down. It was painfully obvious to anyone who walked into Class C who the cardholder was, but Ryuan wasn't having it. Tyrants don't like to give up power even for a moment, and tracing the spies we sent back to Ryuan would be child's play for anyone with some level of intellect. There seemed to be no other way. Fine, Ryuan, you win. We'll do it your way. We'll all leave tomorrow night like you want. At my words, Ryuan simply smiled before adjusting his gaze to the ocean. I walked away, my eyes landing on one of the girls in Class C. Manabe was one of the more attractive students in our class, but that wasn't why I was looking her way. We got along well, and she had a lot of social power in the class, especially with the girls, though her connections with me played a role in that. But it was still impressive that despite our tyrannical leadership, she held some influence. Coming up behind her, I wrapped my arm around her waist, causing her to turn her head in surprise before quickly relaxing. I whispered into her ear in front of a couple of students who didn't think much of the gesture. Hey, I need a favor if possible. What are you plotting, Light? Ryuk asked as Manabe quietly left my private tent. Hearing his voice, I decided to stand up, opening my eyes from my fake sleep. I walked out of the tent after a minute had passed. It was late, everyone was likely asleep, or at least not on the beach. Plotting? I was just enjoying some time with a friend and planning a party for Class C. Why do you always think I'm constantly plotting something? I responded to Ryuk. Ryuk simply stared at me, clearly curious. I guess giving you a hint wouldn't hurt. Really? Ryuk said, excited to hear what I had to say. Yes, although you'll owe me one, I said with a smile. After receiving a nod from Ryuk, I continued, I've already told you my goals. I plan on leading all classes and hopefully, the entire school until graduation. This school needs someone. Manabu served his purpose for a bit, but he's leaving soon and wasn't active enough. Right now, it's a fight for the most capable student to take his place. Isn't it obvious who should win that fight? Ryuan has the right idea. Why should I sit still and let someone stand over me when no one is qualified to do so? Do you understand now? I'm simply doing what's necessary, not just for me but for everyone in the school. Ryuk nodded. So how does what you're planning play into that? It's simple. What I'm planning will make sure we win this thing. Winning is important. Leaders can't be losers. And that favor you asked that girl, to get the class together to start planning a party before you all leave tomorrow? How will that help you win? Couldn't you have done it yourself? You have way more sway over the class than that girl, Ryuk continued questioning. Well, I can't spoil everything for you, Ryuk, I said with a smile. Watch, and you'll see the point of my actions. And on your second question, yes, I could have gotten the class together to plan the celebration myself. I thought for a moment before continuing. But sometimes, if you want something done best, it's better to distance yourself. Ryuk simply looked at me as I spoke. Even after all this time, you still confuse me, you know that? Well, either way, you owe me one. I've told you enough to come to a conclusion on what's going to happen in the future, I said, continuing to walk down the shore. Wait, but there's one more thing I'm curious about. Class A and Class B, you don't have to worry about either of their leaders. But Class D, you haven't even bothered with them, Ryuk pointed out, highlighting my uncaring attitude towards Class D in this exam. Why would I have to worry about them? Ibuki is there, she'll handle them. Stop joking with me, Light. The traitor from Class A is a different matter since you understand their situation and have some confidence in Ryuan. But if you truly trusted your classmates, you wouldn't have gone out of your way to scout Class B. I sighed at his words. That's harsh. I have some trust, Ryuk, but trust can only take you so far. Class D. Well, let's just say I have a way to figure out their leader without ever stepping foot into their camp. Ryuk hummed loudly, taking in my words as I turned back from the shore, walking back towards camp. Don't think too much about it. Everything will be known tomorrow. Class D will reveal themselves to us, and you'll understand the purpose of the party we will be having. It's just a bit longer. You'll see. Shina Hiyori POV today felt different from any other day on the island. But not in a bad way. It was our last day here, and everyone knew it. But that wasn't what changed the atmosphere in our camp. Anyone in Class C could see that this was the most active we've been since we arrived. Not everyone was hard at work, though. If someone walked into Class C right now, they'd probably think it was a paradise. But there were actually things being put together, with lots of preparation and planning. Even I had some plans for the day. I felt a spark of excitement since hearing about the class celebration yesterday. I know we don't have much to celebrate, but for someone who's spent most of her life alone, it was a nice change of pace. I felt at home. I never minded being alone, but I have to admit, I've always wanted friends. But as a bookworm, I don't have much to talk about except books. And while the people in Class C aren't as bad as others make them out to be, I've had trouble fitting in. That was until I met Yagami. I was suspicious of him at first. He seemed perfect, athletic, smart, and decisive. Everything I lack and everything I admire. I didn't think he fit in with the rest of Class C. I even thought he might have been assigned to our class by mistake. But I would never say that out loud because, honestly, it has been a pleasant mistake. He was the first real friend I made in Class C. No, he might be the first real friend I've ever made. And thanks to him and the atmosphere he created in Class C, even with imposing figures like Ryuan, I've been able to make more friends. Hey Sheena, you look happy, Yamashita says from nearby. I am. I reply cheerfully. This is our first real bonding time as a class since school started. How could I not be happy? Have you always been this energetic, Sheena? Morofuji teases from behind, making me smile shyly. Anyway, what are you doing just holding that book, Sheena? Yamashita asks. Well. I trail off, glancing at one of the tents in our camp. He usually wakes up early, but he must be tired. Oh, you're waiting for Yagami? Yamashita asks playfully. I nod. It's not like that. I just want to ask him something. Looks like you're right on cue, Morofuji says as Yagami's tent opens. Yagami looks around the camp, clearly tired. Well, he just woke up, so of course he'd be a bit groggy. Because of him, we've been able to push aside all the class competition and hostility. Everyone has been able to enjoy themselves. He really is a good person who cares deeply for his classmates. Good morning, Yagami, I say as I walk towards him, clutching my book to my chest. You seem tired. Ah yes, sorry. I didn't get much sleep last night, he says, rubbing the back of his head with his signature smile, though his face shows how tired he really is. You should take it easy, Yagami. You're probably stressed out from dealing with Ryuan, I joke with a slight chuckle, and Yagami laughs too. Well, we'll be back on the cruise ship soon, so I'll get some rest then, he says happily. Yes, I've enjoyed it here, but I'm also excited to get back to my books and join in the ship's events with everyone. After a few moments, Yagami finally noticed the book I was holding. You probably heard about the party today. We had a few points left over, so I talked to Ryuan, and he let me get a cookbook. I usually read mysteries, but I've been bored, and this is a tropical desert edition, I said excitedly, pushing the book cover in front of Yagami's face. I noticed him slowly scanning the cover. Sakagami-sensei told me everything in this cookbook can be made with the materials on this island. That's good. You plan on using it for the celebration today? He asked. I nodded, pulling the book back. Yeah, I'm missing a bit more than I want, but I'm sure we can do without, I explained. What are you missing? Yagami asked. I pulled the book closer, covering my mouth with it before continuing. Well, as you know, we bought most of our rations with points, so they don't exactly fit the tropical theme. I'm mostly just missing some fruits. We have some here, of course, but we could use more and a greater variety of flavors. I see. What are you thinking of making? Hearing his curiosity, I quickly opened up my cookbook to the dessert I was considering and showed it to him. He scanned the book, but slowly, a lot slower than he usually reads. It was strange, considering Yagami is a much faster reader than me. But I realized I was being a bit inconsiderate, considering he had just woken up and hadn't slept well, so I pulled the book back and explained the recipe to him. Sorry, I got a bit ahead of myself, Yagami. I want to make something simple. We have ice in our freezer because of the points we spent, so I thought a fruit sorbet would be nice and simple. All we need is a variety of fruits, ice, and sugar. As I said, we have some fruits here, but I wanted to make a variety of flavors for everyone. We just have to cut the fruit up, mash it, and with some of the ice we use for our drinks and salt, and Ziploc bags we use for our meat, we can quickly make the sorbet. With everyone helping, it won't take more than an hour to be ready to enjoy. Do you want me to go scavenge for you? Yagami asked, quickly offering his help. But I shook my head, declining his offer. It's all right. I can tell you're tired. You should try to get some more sleep, I responded. No, really, it's fine. I quite enjoy nature, plus I had no plans to rest any longer. I see. Then I can't let you go alone. I'll come with, I responded with a smile. I guess we should get going right away if we want to make it back early then, Yagami said as we grabbed some necessities and he led me out of the camp. Don't you need the manual we were given to identify what's safe to eat? I asked as I followed Yagami out of camp. No, I've already studied it in depth. I have it memorized. The information could come in handy for the class after all, Yagami responded confidently as he walked through the forest. I giggled at his words, and he looked at me, puzzled. I did the same, but I just find it cute how you always think about the class. Yagami simply nodded and continued forward. Not even 10 seconds later, We walked into an area filled with different fruits. It seemed he was very skilled at foraging, even though he never mentioned anything about camping. Talking about the class, Sheena, how have you been doing? He asked. I've been good. As long as the class is happy, I am happy. I honestly can't ask for much more. Plus, I've made some friends now too, which is good. I say, giving him a quick glance. Is that so? Yagami asked. I nodded as we both picked fruits and placed them into the bags we had taken from camp. I know it's strange, considering how different the goals and wishes of my classmates and I are. They easily accept the idea of competing, regardless of what that competition brings. But I'm glad to see how much they also desire to simply get along and make memories, like me. And I'm glad we've managed to do that so far, avoiding any serious competition. That's good, although I'd say in terms of connection between classmates, Class B has us beat, Yagami responded. I still enjoy Class C. I'm happy to be here with all of you. That said, Yagami and I continued to search for fruits. Although short, our time together was peaceful. Light Yagami, thank you Yagami, Sheena said as we arrived back at camp with a variety of fruits. You shouldn't be thanking me, I replied, noticing the curious look on Sheena's face. It's just, forget it, it's nothing really, I said with a smile. Sheena walked up to me, placing her hand against my neck. Yagami, you're acting really strange. Are you sure you're okay? She asked. Your temperature is fine, but I'm worried. Pushing her hand away gently, I responded, I'm okay really. I just have a lot on my mind. Just relax, Sheena said with a bright smile. Soon, we'll be done with our part in this exam and back on the cruise ship. You just have to last a couple more hours. Then we'll all be on the ship, having fun together. Yeah, of course. I said, smiling back. I'm sorry, Sheena. Don't be. We're friends after all, aren't we? She asked. With a nod, we both set off in opposite directions after storing the fruits for later. Tell me, Light, what's up with this act of yours? Ryuk asked as I moved to a more secluded part of the camp. Well, it's complicated. I've been plotting for a while, thinking about how I could possibly gain control over Sheena, knowing her value. But I haven't had an opportunity until now, I responded. But this morning, when you woke up, you were already acting? You were preparing for specifically this day to try to get into the poor girl's head. Ryuk questioned. You could say that. It was a complete coincidence that she also wanted to speak to me this morning. If she didn't, I would have gone up to her myself. Knowing she doesn't have much to do on this island and seeing me in a lethargic state, if I told her I was going out to do something in the forest, she would have insisted on coming along. Luckily, I didn't even have to bother with any of that, and it just so happened her plans coincided with mine, I explained. Why wait till now to do something about her? Sheena is smart enough to lead Class C on her own under the right conditions. But she's also a thinker, sympathetic, and introverted, even if not always by choice. So, I've told you before, Ryuk, if you want to control someone, you have to understand them. Why I waited till now is simple. I'm taking advantage of Sheena's personality, I explained. While Ryuk still seemed slightly confused, he continued. Are you planning to do her like you did that Class D girl? Wow, Ryuk, you should know I'm against unnecessary cruelty. Something that cruel won't be necessary for Sheena. My plans for her are much simpler than those I had for Karuizawa, but they will be just as effective. Ryuk thought about my words briefly before questioning. If they are just as effective, wouldn't they be just as cruel? I feel like that Class D girl should technically be an easier target than that Sheena girl. Well, I guess in a way you're right. Every person has their own breaking point, their own unique weakness. For some, it's overt pressure. For others, it's a subtle nudge. Karuizawa needed a sledgehammer. Sheena will fall to a scalpel. Everyone has their own poison. I said, turning around to see new arrivals from Class D, Susan Horikita and Kiyotaka Ayanakoji. It seems our Class D guests have finally arrived. I was a bit far off, but both seemed to notice me. The distance probably made me easy to spot on an empty beach. As I slowly moved to meet them, it seemed they had just arrived. While I was approaching, a member of Class C who was close to Ryuan began to run towards them. It seemed Ryuan noticed their presence and was calling them forward to talk. I continued moving slowly towards camp to let things play out a bit. The Class D duo quickly made it to Ryuan. They seemed to be talking about the camp, and I could make out a bookie's name. Not long after their conversation began, I arrived. "Good afternoon, it's Horikita and Ayano-koji, right?" I asked, extending my hand towards Ayano-koji for a handshake. As I did so, Ryuan said jokingly, "You take time to memorize the names of random Class D garbage? I thought you were above that." "Don't listen to him. Ryuan can be quite the sadist," I said, keeping my hand extended, trying to improve the mood. Ayano-koji finally extended his hand and shook mine lightly. "I see. Well, it's nice to meet you formally, I suppose," he said, letting go. "Same here. It's unfortunate our previous encounters weren't as pleasant," I responded before turning to Horikita, offering a handshake. As I did, I took a moment to analyze her. She was trying to hide it, but something was off about her body language. Usually, she stood confidently, but now her stance was more closed. I couldn't tell exactly what was wrong, but something was definitely up. "No offense, but I prefer to avoid physical contact if possible," Horikita said. Hearing that, I quickly put my hand down. "That's understandable. I just wanted to greet you properly, but a handshake isn't necessary." Horikita scanned our camp and commented, "TCH. 2 incompetent leaders in one class. I can't understand how you got into the student council, but soon it seems you'll both be marked as failures." As she spoke, I noticed more signs that something was wrong, not just her body language but her tone as well. Ryuan, on the other hand, seemed less interested in Horikita. He took a cup from his table and saw it was filled with water. "That idiot. Ishizaki." Ryuan yelled across the beach, causing a panicked Ishizaki to run towards him. "Yes, sir." Ishizaki responded quickly. "What did I tell you about consistently refilling my cup with ice?" Ryuan said, splashing the water onto Ishizaki's face. "Refill it, and don't forget again." As Ryuan spoke, I continued glancing at Horikita, noticing the sweat on her forehead. Then it hit me. She seemed overdressed for such a hot island. Even Ayano-koji had his tracksuit unzipped, but Horikita was completely bundled up while sweating bullets. It didn't make sense. Her voice was also slightly off. "I'm sorry to bother you, Ishizaki, but could you please get 2 bottles of water for our guests?" I asked. Ayano-koji responded, even though my words weren't directed at him. "That's not necessary. We are not. You may not be thirsty, but you still have to get back to your camp. And look at your classmate. She's sweating bullets." "I don't want her to be dehydrated," I responded. Hearing me, Horikita remained silent while Ayano-koji turned his head slightly to look at her. Noticing the sweat on her face, he sighed and relented. "I see. I guess you're right. Thank you for your hospitality." "What are you still doing here, idiot? Didn't you hear us?" Ryuan said to Ishizaki, who gave a quick yes, sir, before running off. "Class A, B, and D, you 3 are all the fools. For just 100 or 200 class points, you're willing to starve and struggle. I'm above such things," Ryuan explained. "And here I was, actually expecting something from Class C." "You're right, how foolish I am," Horikita retorted. "No one can dictate my actions, Horikita. Class C is my class. I do what I want when I want," Ryuan shot back. The tension between Horikita and Ryuan was rising. Now was the perfect time. They were both focused on each other. It was time for my foolproof plan. Well, maybe not foolproof, but the chance of success wasn't low, although it would only work once. "Horikita, you're the card holder of Class D, aren't you?" With just those 9 words, the focus of the previous discussion completely shifted to me. Horikita, Ryuan, and even the usually disinterested Ayano-koji turned their gaze to me. "What are you going on about?" Horikita asked. "I was just making an observation," I responded, not elaborating. "Baseless conclusion. Humph, believe whatever you want." "It's not like it affects me," she responded as Ishizaki returned, handing a cup of ice to Ryuan. As he did, I walked towards him, taking the 2 chilled water bottles from his hand and walking towards Ayano-koji. "Here you go," I said, handing him a bottle, which he extended his hand to take. "I'm sorry if I've offended either of you or Class D. Please know that wasn't my intention," I said with an apologetic look, walking to Horikita with the water bottle in my hand. Horikita slowly extended her arm to reach for the bottle, but as her hand got close, I dropped it. It fell to the floor, distracting Horikita as her gaze shifted downwards. In that instant, I grabbed her arm and forcefully pulled her close to me. Realizing her situation, Horikita quickly attempted to respond with a kick to my stomach, but the distance between us was now virtually non-existent. There was no momentum behind her kick. Even then, it still hurt, but that was all. With Horikita temporarily immobilized, I quickly reached into her right pocket, planning to empty it completely. But there was only one thing inside. A card. Releasing Horikita's arm, I quickly tossed the card backwards towards Ryuan. In that quick encounter, I learned something. Horikita's physical capabilities were not behind a bookie's. No, she was sickly right now. At full power, she might easily overpower a bookie. It's a good thing my only objective was to get my hands on the keycard in her pocket. If I hadn't made her lower her guard beforehand, that could have gone very differently. Turning around, I noticed all of Class C was now focused on me, Ryuan, and the Class D visitors. Horikita hadn't moved a muscle since I took the Class D keycard from her and tossed it to Ryuan. She was completely motionless, nearly all the color drained from her face. "It's the real deal," Ryuan said, looking at the card intently and flipping it over. With a smile, he read the name on the front, Susan Horikita. Ignoring him, I bent down to pick up the water bottle I had purposely dropped in front of Horikita. "I'm sorry," I said, standing back up to hand her the bottle. She slowly took it, but I could tell she was baffled, not knowing what to do until some life returned to her eyes. "I'll report this to the teachers." Violence is prohibited in this exam," she said confidently. Ryuan then took the lead, curiously gazing at Horikita before loudly speaking up. "Violence? What violence? I didn't see any violence. Did anyone else see any violence?" His voice echoed throughout the Class C camp. Manabe was the first to respond. "Violence? I didn't see anything. What it seemed like to me was that Horikita got careless and had her keycard stolen. I mean, look at her. She doesn't have a scratch on her." "Ha ha ha. Yeah, that's what I saw too." Ryuan exclaimed loudly. Ishizaki was next. "Yeah, I never even saw Yagami lay a finger on her." Quickly, the class caught on. "Yeah, Horikita just got too careless. Yagami just has some quick fingers." To me, it looked like Horikita was the one who employed violence. Yeah, she must have really underestimated our class. At the incoming comments, Horikita's eyes began to shake while Ayanokoji temporarily closed his, letting out a quick breath. It seemed they both understood the current situation was in no way advantageous to them. Ryuan seemed to be really enjoying himself. "You know, I could sell this to other classes for points. Class B might be tempted, and Class A would undoubtedly capitalize on an opportunity like this," he said in hopes of pressuring Horikita and Class D. What do you want?" Horikita responded, defeated. This would be the third time her class would be seemingly robbed by Ryuan. This was enough. Obviously, in this scenario, I could be seen as a villain to Class D from a certain lens. It's a good thing Class C has someone many times more vile than me to help me maintain my appearance as a saint. "That's enough, Ryuan. Just hand back the keycard." "Oh? Yagami, we talked about this. But you've earned your keep, so I'll give you a chance. Why should we let an opportunity like this slip through our hands?" Ryuan asked. "Sadly, appealing to your morality won't work, so I'll do this differently. There's nothing to gain by selling this information to classes A or B. Class B is allied with Class D, and knowing them, they won't use this information against their allies. And while we could get maybe a couple 100,000 points from Class A, we'd just be giving our main competitors a bigger lead against us for some points that both of us can obtain easily. And well, I think you know Class D is in no position to offer us anything for their keycard back." Ryuan looked at me, interested but unconvinced. We had our deal with Class A for information and materials, and Ryuan seemed to be someone who kept his side of deals, so I continued. "And who knows, if you still decide to go on with this, some unhappy student may decide to sell out Class C's leader." Ryuan focused on me as those last words left my mouth. "Can't even have some fun around here." "Fine, have it your way," Ryuan said, throwing the keycard to the ground in front of Horikita. Horikita, after a moment, collected herself and picked up the keycard. "How did you know?" It couldn't have been Karuizawa. You two have been close, so I've kept an eye on her, she said, looking at me. I wasn't sure you were the card holder, honestly. It was a 50-50 chance, I explained. 50-50? How did you come to that? She asked. Well, in my mind, there were 3 possibilities. Class D's leader was either Kushida, Hirata, or someone else. I eliminated Kushida because, after midterms, she lost some influence in Class D. Some might have reservations about handing over power in an exam to her after what happened with the incorrect exam answers. Hirata is an obvious choice for class leader, but that is also a good cover. Hence, the only options left were Hirata or some random member of Class D. The question is, who is the best student to hand power over to other than the 2 popular students in Class D? The answer was obvious to me. It was you. You haven't been an outright leader for Class D, but you've played a central role. You are the qualified student to be the card holder. Of course, there's more that I'm leaving out, but I'm sure Ryuan has caught on by now. The shadow leader of Class D has been using others to achieve their goals. It's likely that Very Figure is behind Horikita, given the roles she's played in her class so far. The puppet master would want the keycard in his puppet's hand, given how he operates. And the fact they've stopped using Kushida, another possible good puppet, is interesting. The true leader of the class has stayed away from her recently. But just because I can come to a deduction doesn't mean it is correct. Hirata was still a possible candidate, and I couldn't ignore the chance that Class D chose someone completely random. So I wanted to make sure. And I know you're smart, Horikita. While I was arriving here earlier, I heard you mention Ibuki being in your camp. That's when I was confident. Given your intellect, if you were the leader of Class D, you'd definitely have the keycard. You would never leave it at your base, knowing there could be a possible spy after it. It may be harsh, but even I would do the same. Keep the keycard out of camp and bring it with me. So I decided to check for myself if you had the keycard. Horikita clenched her fist, hearing my words. How smart can I be? You read me like a... No, you read our whole class like a book. So what now? Does Class C now plan on voting for me at the end of this exam? Sadly, I'm not the leader of Class C, so I can't answer that question, I said, looking at Ryuan. The breeze from the nearby ocean added to the anticipation of Ryuan's following words. I've made myself clear. I don't plan on bothering with this exam, he responded. These words annoyed Horikita. I don't believe you. I know you're definitely plotting something, even if I don't know the exact details. Otherwise, why would Yagami even bother with a stunt like that? Horikita responded. I'd actually like to know the answer to that myself. His actions also took me by surprise, Ryuan said, looking at me. It didn't seem like Horikita truly believed him, even though he was telling the truth. But it didn't matter. Earlier, you called me incompetent and questioned how I got into the student council, so I thought it fair to give you a first-hand demonstration of my capabilities. Horikita stood quiet for a moment, then gave a sigh of resignation. Whatever. I'm not sure what you are plotting, Ryuan, but this situation is out of my control now, she said, giving a slight pause. Whatever ends up occurring before the end of this exam, just know Class D will come out victorious over you. Ha ha ha, sure, keep dreaming, Ryuan responded as Ayana Koji and the annoyed Horikita made their exits. Class D is becoming more hopeless as time passes. Not only that, but I have a foot in the door in terms of control with Karuizawa. I have work left to do, but I've made lots of progress with them. Soon, with control of Hiyori, I won't have to worry much about control over Class C. Unless Ryuan does anything crazy, I can already consider this class conquered. Class B and A will be more annoying problems. I have to find a way to take advantage of Class B's financial situation. They used points to save 2 students during the midterms, so the slightest instability can have a huge effect on them. If I can do that, knowing the kind of students in Class B, they'd basically hand over power. But Class A is an entirely different beast. Once someone has felt what it's like to be at the top, they never want to go back down. How many billionaires do you see advocating for equal distribution of wealth and resources? But I must do whatever is necessary to gain power over them. This school needs me, after all. Right now it may just be Class C, but soon Class D and even B will also be relying on me. If they don't have me, how will the students of this school operate properly? Ryuan's voice cut through my thoughts. Impressive. In one brief interaction, You accomplished a lot. But I must wonder, what was the point? Ibuki would have taken care of Horikita, and now Class D and likely Class B will be suspicious of us. They'll suspect us of plotting something. So what was the point? It's fine. Our contract with Class A doesn't demand we give them intel without evidence to back it. But even without focusing on that, think about it. Horikita will now need to explain to her class how she was discovered as the cardholder. Even if she doesn't, she'll let her guard down around Ibuki. After all, a spy would seem useless after we've already discovered Horikita. Additionally, no one knows about our contract with Class A. Even if someone suspected or exposed Ibuki as a spy, they'd see her as useless now. At the same time, Ibuki is smart enough to continue her mission even if she hears we already discovered Class D's leader. Especially once she learns we gave back the card. In a way, Class D and B focusing their suspicion on us and of our spies is a good thing. It will help our espionage mission. I assume that's true, but your actions still weren't necessary, which is what I find interesting. So why? Ryuan asked. I explained it to Horikita. I simply acted because I don't like being doubted, I responded. This wasn't the whole story. I wanted to drag out the one pulling Horikita's strings. When Horikita returns to camp and discusses the class's current situation, the Shadow Master will be forced to act. If Ibuki simply gets a picture of Class D's keycard with the camera we gave her, there's a chance she goes unnoticed by Class D. And that's quite the boring scenario. If that's true, then it seems you can be petty too, Ryuan said, smiling. Well, whatever. Like you said, it doesn't matter. He looked to the side as the Class C students prepared the food for the upcoming celebration. Anyway, that's done, so I suppose I should help everyone, I said, walking towards Sheena as everyone got the grills ready to make meat, cups, and other party necessities. During the walk, I took in a lot of the scenery. I understood where Ryuan was coming from, opting to take this unique position in the exam. If a class could guess all three other class leaders while gaining more class points through survival on the island, was it worth taking this exam seriously? 150 points from guessing other class leaders alone was enough to put you in equal standings with all other classes if you assume they each use 100 points during this exam. This scenery by the ocean, the games of volleyball, barbecues, and overall comfort could be argued to be worth the cost of all the points. Especially for a class with students as useless as the majority of those in Class C, we wouldn't have been left with much just focusing on survival. Are you feeling better, Yagami? Sheena asked as I approached her. She seemed to be getting things ready for the fruit sorbet we would be making. I'm close enough, I responded, smiling. Let me help you. It will take a while before everything is ready anyway, right? Sheena gave me an enthusiastic nod. Yes, but don't rush. We have more than enough time. Thank you for your help. You can relax here and set everything up. I'll go around and ask everyone what flavor sorbet they want, she responded, and I nodded. As she walked away, I moved towards the chilled container where we had our fruits stored and chilled. Slowly, I took out the fruits until I got to the bottom and saw a bag with berries inside. Mistletoe berries, colorless, scentless, and other than a slight bitterness and sweetness that can be found in any fruit, they are basically tasteless. And most importantly, they are poisonous. They aren't considered lethal like most things on this island, but can cause nausea, vomiting, and stomach pain. A couple of these in someone's dessert would leave them essentially incapacitated. We'll do it your way, Ryuan. You forced my hand, leaving me no option but to fulfill your desire and force you out of your position. Remember, you only have yourself to blame for this. Sheena Hiyori, it was quite the scene, one of those moments you just don't forget. The breeze from the trees, the sun shining down on all of us, the golden glow across the beach, and the sound of the waves crashing against the shore played perfectly with the laughter and chatter that filled the air. Tiki torches surrounded the camp, their flames dancing merrily like my classmates. Groups of friends lay on colorful blankets and beach chairs, some sipping on tropical drinks or enjoying the leftover sorbets. While some shared stories and jokes, a bonfire crackled in the center, surrounded by people roasting marshmallows and exchanging heartfelt toasts. Food tables were filled with an array of delicious treats. The scent of grilled fish and sizzling skewers drifted through the air, making mouths water and adding to the festive atmosphere. It was a perfect blend of laughter, friendship, and happiness, an unforgettable moment etched in the memories of all who were there. Yes, this was definitely a night to remember. Have you ever had one? Have you been with family or friends and just forgotten about everything else going on in your life? This moment made me realize there was truly nowhere else I'd rather be right now. I said it to Yagami, and I meant it. As long as my friends are happy and everyone is able to coexist in peace, then I am happy. There was one thing that bothered me though. Hi Manabe, would you happen to know where Yagami is right now? I asked. Yagami? He told me he would be dealing with something right now, Manabe responded. I frowned at her words. Why do you ask? I was just hoping to see him. He played a big part in setting the celebration up, but I haven't seen him enjoy it, and it's coming to an end now. Now that I think about it, Ryuan isn't around either. I'm sure they'll pop up soon, but we should start picking stuff up. We're leaving soon, after all, and can't leave the camp dirty, she responded. And we went on to do exactly that. Even the cleanup was serene, with everyone happily assisting. Only after we were finishing did Yagami finally make an appearance. Sorry to bother everyone. I hope you all have enjoyed yourselves, but sadly, it's time to leave the island. So everyone, please prepare to leave in the next couple of minutes, Yagami said loudly, so that everyone in camp could hear him. And of course, being a respected member of the class, everyone did just as he said. Seeing him for the first time in a while, I went to approach him. Where were you? I had to deal with some matter with Ryuan, so I was preoccupied. I was in one of the camp tents, he responded. He seemed tired out. Maybe it was a serious matter pertaining to the exam. I see. It's sad. I was hoping to celebrate with you. It was one of the main reasons I was so excited about this whole thing. Yagami responded, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disappoint you. I just had a lot on my plate today. Well, we are leaving soon, so it's all right, I responded, attempting to comfort him. Yes, although I'll be a bit late. I still have to deal with some things with Ryuan. I'd appreciate it if you could ensure everyone gets back safely to the cruise ship. I see. Of course, I'll do my best to see everyone arrives at the cruise ship safely. Shortly after that encounter, the rest of the class and I walked through the forest together, aiming to arrive at the beach where we first docked. As we walked, a strange feeling tugged at my heart. I couldn't figure out what it was, but something just didn't feel right. Before I knew it, we had arrived at our destination. Oh, what's this? Hashinomiya said playfully as we stepped onto the beach. Manabe was the first to respond. We aren't feeling well. You know, stomach aches, headaches, stuff like that. We want to go back to the ship. Hashinomiya looked confused for a second before asking, all of you? And getting a unanimous yes. Okay, stand by the ship entrance. I'll have to do a little count and mark your names off to make your resignations official, Hashinomiya replied. One by one, we got onto the ship. I was one of the last to board, and I could hear some of the teachers talking. Their conversation brought back that chilling feeling in my heart. Sakagami, it seems like there's an emergency. One of your students pressed the button on their wristwatch. That's all I could make out as we were taken to board the cruise ship, leaving me unable to do anything. Ibuki, Kaneda, Ryuan, and Yagami. 5 minutes had passed since I boarded the cruise ship with everyone in Class C. While everyone was enjoying themselves, I couldn't help but worry about those four. They were the only members of Class C left on the island, meaning one of them pressed the button on their watch. As the minutes ticked by, my anxiety only grew. 10 minutes passed, then 20. Each minute felt like an eternity, filled with thoughts of Yagami's ominous words about returning to the ship. By the time 30 minutes had passed, I was on edge, my heart pounding. Then, we saw someone new boarding the ship. It was Ryuan, supported by 2 doctors. Let go of me. I'm fully awake, and we're on the ship. There's no point in this, Ryuan said, shoving both doctors aside. But sir, your classmate reported that you had eaten some poisonous berries. We can't. I told you to piss off, Ryuan growled menacingly. If I deem it necessary, I'll go to the medical ward myself. There's no point in this. He sat down nearby, his voice weaker and more drowsy than usual. Plus, there's nothing lethal on that island anyway, right? But still you could faint or, I already told you to piss off, didn't I? Do so while I'm being nice. With those final words, the doctors retreated. This left me in Class C staring at him curiously. Poison? What had happened? What are you guys staring at? Ryuan snapped, and I couldn't help but ask. That doctor said you ate some poisonous berries. What happened? I asked. Do you think I'd be so stupid? Anything I ate on that island, you guys would have eaten too. We were both eating from the same camp. Ryuan's voice was weak, greatly contrasting his usual demeanor. I didn't purposely eat anything poisoned. No, that bastard Yagami must have poisoned me because I wouldn't listen to him when he implied we might fail this exam if I didn't step down as cardholder. Then, while I was weakened and unconscious, he pressed the emergency button on my wristwatch. As Ryuan spoke, everything started to make sense. The reasons why Yagami had been acting strange all day, why he seemed so tired, and the true meaning of his apology to me. I couldn't help the gut-wrenching feelings that soon came. Suddenly, memories of similar moments flooded my mind. Times when I had relied heavily on someone else's strength and sacrifices without truly recognizing their struggles. Moments when I was so focused on my own worries that I overlooked the silent battles others were fighting. I say I value friendship, but I let others struggle alone. I say I'm against competition, but I happily benefited from Yagami's competitive efforts. I say I want to help others, but I turned a blind eye to friends' pain. I remembered my parents coming home from work and staying up all night helping me study for exams while I barely noticed how tired they were. Or when my siblings took on extra chores so I could go to the library, and I didn't even thank them properly. Those moments seemed insignificant then, but now they echoed loudly in my mind. I say I dislike relying on others, but I leaned on Yagami without a second thought. I say I'm supportive, but I failed to support my friend when he needed it most. I say I cherish honesty, but I ignored the silent cries for help from my so-called friend. I've always wanted friends, and for the first time, I've had some success. I dislike how the classes compete and how it's bred hostility, but I thought it was good that most of our class managed to avoid that and see some success. But I never thought about the cost of that success. Since the beginning, Yagami has been struggling to maintain peace in our class and give us a good school life. He's been fighting for us to reach Class A while we benefited from his actions. He's been exhausting himself to keep us happy. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't have made friends with those in Class C. No, the atmosphere would be completely different. It's been because of him, whether in the student council, defending our class, during exams, midterms, even small things like quizzes, and now these special exams. Without Yagami and his constant support, along with the safety net from the points he taxed, the class would have a lot more to worry about. I would still be the same girl in the library, reading books alone. I'm against competition, but I also want to make friends, and ironically, it's been through hard work and competition that Yagami has made my dream of making friends possible. What kind of friend does that make me? Letting my so-called friend struggle for my benefit while I just reap the rewards? And today, Yagami was pushed to the point where he felt he had to poison Ryuan to keep the class happy. Maybe things would have been different if I had offered Yagami my full support. If I had helped him, things would have been different. He wouldn't have done something so drastic. I say I want friends, but all students in Class C, all my friends want to reach Class A. They want to compete. What kind of friend denies the goals of others and benefits while pushing the responsibility of those goals onto another so-called friend and just watches as they struggle? Acting like this, can I really call Yagami my friend? I thought about my own selfish moments, how I've let others take the burden while I stood by, oblivious or unwilling to help. The countless times I've let others handle the tough situations while I benefited from their sacrifices. It was easy to take it all for granted, to ignore the silent pleas for help, the weariness in their eyes. All I can do is think about the mental anguish Yagami must have been going through since this morning, contemplating his future actions. The anguish I did absolutely nothing to help resolve as he went about his day suffering. The anguish he will be suffering for the next 3 days on the island alone. Now, I say I want to make things right, but I don't know how. I guess that is my punishment for being greedy and selfish, but it's well deserved. I just wish that I could suffer in Yagami's place. He apologized to me, but truly, I should be the one apologizing to him. Because I failed as a friend. Slow down, Ryuk. There are plenty of apples here. Plus, if you're so focused on eating, you might not notice if someone comes close by, I said, receiving a nod from a full-mouthed Ryuk. Saying that, I continued to play with Ryuan's walkie-talkie that was now in my possession. A breeze hit, and it was relaxing, perhaps the most relaxing moment I've had since arriving on the island. The breeze, the shaking of the trees and leaves around me, the sound of water from the small river to my side, and of course, the lack of idiots all helped my state of relaxation. So, what's the plan now? You've given all the materials that previously belonged to Class C to Class A, and you asked the school to make you the cardholder of Class C instead of Ryuan. So there isn't much to do, Ryuk said. You're right. All there is to do now is wait and hide, I said, situating myself by a tree. Then what's the point of all this? You said it yourself. The contract with Class A is unimportant. As long as you give the items you've purchased with points to them, you really have no other obligations to them. So why stay here? Isn't it relaxing here, Ryuk? It's peaceful, there are apples, and there are no people bothering us, I said, closing my eyes. I guess I can't complain as long as we have apples here. But Light, if you really dislike people that much, I have a special notebook that can... Stop spouting nonsense, Ryuk. How could a notebook help me deal with my problems? I responded. No, but I'm serious, Light. It can. But before Ryuk could explain the notebook to me, I had already fallen asleep. Day 6 after waiting for a call from the walkie-talkie, one finally arrived. Hello, Ibuki here. I've acquired Class D's keycard. I'll be heading to the meetup location now. A question rang in my head. Why does she have the actual keycard and not just a picture? But I pushed my questions to the back of my mind and responded, good job. I'll be heading there too, but I'll stay hidden. Why? Before Ibuki could blow my cover, I quickly responded. Don't say anything suspicious. Just know that Ryuan had to leave early. I need you to be the one who contacts Katsuragi for me. You will handle the dealing. I'll stay in the background. I understand, Ibuki replied, ending the conversation. With those final words, I stood up from the tree I'd been using as a home and stepped into the rain, making my way to the meetup location. I stayed a decent distance back and merely watched. Ibuki seemed to be the first to arrive at the location. She just stood there, waiting for Katsuragi. After a few minutes, he finally made his appearance. Ryuan isn't here. I hope this isn't some trick or a waste of my time, Katsuragi said, approaching Ibuki. Ryuan is too busy to deal with someone like you, but this is no trick. I have the keycard right here, Ibuki said, taking a green card out of her tracksuit and handing it to Katsuragi. Impressive, it's the real deal, Katsuragi said, quickly handing the card back. Your class has upheld its side of the deal. While we know their leader, we couldn't get Class B's keycard, Ibuki explained. No need then. Now, if that's all, I'll be going. No reason to spend more time here than necessary, Katsuragi said, making his exit. It's clear, Light, Ryuk said after a few seconds. So, I came out of my hiding spot and walked towards Ibuki. So, are you going to tell me what you're doing on this island instead of Ryuan? She asks. I let out a sigh before responding, it's complicated. Let's just say Ryuan probably wants to kill me right now. I was going to ask, why do you have the original keycard and not just a picture? My camera broke, she responds simply. I nod my head. It was strange though, a new camera suddenly breaking. But not impossible. Well, it doesn't matter. Looking at Ibuki, it's obvious she couldn't secretly snap a picture of Class C's keycard. She had to fight for this card, but the noise she probably created will work to my advantage. Are you alright? You look tired and beat up. I had to fight Horikita for that card. It was a pain, but I got it. I see. Well then, you should return to the ship. I think Kaneda will be returning tonight as well. And with a nod of her head, Ibuki left. If Ibuki had to fight Horikita for this card, I can assume the shadow leader of Class D knows of Class D's situation. Given their puppet's involvement, they will probably assume the card was stolen under Ryuan's command, given my dispute with Ryuan in camp. Everything that Class D has done in this exam leads back to Ryuan. Even the walkie-talkie Ryuan kept on his personal table while we were on the beach like a complete idiot. If someone did find and tamper with Ibuki's camera, I can assume they also found her walkie-talkie. Well, this all seems pointless, Ryuk said now that it was just the two of us. Let me tell you a secret, Ryuk. The leader of Class D right now may be Suzune Horikita, but by tomorrow, the leader will definitely change, I explain. Ryuk hums curiously. The rules during this exam say you can't switch leaders unless there are special circumstances. For example, how I became the leader of Class C now. Class D has no idea what Ryuan planned with their keycard, so they're in a tough spot. They could lose a lot of points unless they switch leaders. I see, but you can't know who the new leader will be, Ryuk responds. True, I respond. On the first day of camp, I thought about camping in the arrival area to catch anyone switching their class leader, but I learned that would be worthless. Sakagami stated that when we choose our leader, we must simply let him know, and a keycard will be made. When Ryuan was made leader, he wasn't even there to declare himself as leader. Ibuki went and declared him as leader herself, meaning camping out is useless. And that makes sense, but still that is bold of you to assume, Ryuk. Oh. It's one of the reasons I was confident that Horikita was the leader of Class D. I already knew the mastermind. Ryuan and I have talked about how Class D's true leader is hiding. That helps us narrow down a few suspects, but not enough to reach a conclusion. So once I got into the student council, I was instantly intrigued by one thing: student evaluations. It's insane how much power the student council has. Even teachers show you respect, and there's a reason for that. Anyway, I looked over the evaluations of all Class D members, searching for someone with a high evaluation. 2 names stood out as I sorted through them: Terahiko Yukimura and Rokusuke Kuenji. But neither fit the personality I was looking for of the one I was looking for, and they were not really hiding. They both excelled in class but simply lacked a cooperative mindset. Then I found one name that stood out: Ayanokoji Kiyotaka. He was evaluated as a C in every category except cooperativeness, where he scored a D. I see. That's the guy who always looks like he's dead inside, right? Why would such a useless person be a main figure in almost every class issue so far, especially if he's uncooperative? Exactly. And it seems whenever Horikita is around, so is he. But tell me, does Horikita seem like the kind to make friends, especially with fools easily? I understand now, but still, that's all you're basing your conclusion on? It may be strange to be graded a C in everything and constantly be around major issues, but it could just be a coincidence, you know? Yes, I thought so too. Did you know that there are cameras in the cafeteria? Ryuk simply stares at me. Isn't that obvious? Hearing his words, I smile. After Kushida gave the midterm answers to Class D, many were curious where and how she got them. As you remember, that situation was a trap I set to elicit a response. So her answer was as expected. She got the answers from a senior during lunch break. As you can imagine, Class D being idiots, this information spread. It wasn't difficult as a member of the student council to gain access to the school's camera recordings. Even students can formally request recordings. After all, cameras are around the school to make use of or even blackmail others. And obviously, with my position on the student council, I wouldn't need to bother with a request. It wasn't like I was going to use the recordings formally. So through some scouring, I was able to find a particular day, the only day where Ayanokoji and Kushida walked into the cafeteria together, talked to a senior and left. That's it. They did nothing else that day in the cafeteria, and it happened to be just after our case against Sudo was filed. Most people would walk into the cafeteria without a second thought, but who knew it would be such an ordinary action that would get the shadow leader of Class D figured out? I see. When you take that in with everything else, he is definitely suspicious. Then it would seem the chances your assumptions are incorrect are very unlikely. But what if he makes someone else the card holder? He won't, because he has no reason to suspect that I, Ryuan, know his identity as the shadow leader, or even that I know a shadow leader exists. As long as no one guesses him, his identity remains secret. But suppose he goes on and tells someone else to become the card holder. In that case, it becomes more of a headache to keep your identity secret when that person begins asking why, and you also have to worry about that person doing something stupid. But as long as no one knows his identity, he can throw all credit onto Horikita without a care in the world, something that's harder to do if he makes someone else the card holder. So from his point of view, there's no advantage to making someone else in his class the card holder. I've barely talked to the guy, but I've had many indirect confrontations with him. I know how he thinks, Ryuk. I've already won this thing. Ryuk remained silent at my proclamation, and quickly the rain subsided. This thing's over. It was fun though, I guess, I say, heading away to find an area to relax. The final day, Yagami, are you awake? Hearing that voice, I instantly opened my eyes. It was a voice I knew well, Sakagami's voice. Yes, I am. Good morning, Sakagami-sensei, I said, standing up from my sleeping area. Did you wash your clothes or something? How are you spotless? Hearing his questions, I simply gave him a smile. I assume the test is over? Yes, all your classmates have dropped out. Anyway, I hope you are capable of closing this out, Sakagami says, handing me a clipboard with a paper listing the letters A, B, C, and D, with C being crossed out. Don't you think you favor Ryuan a bit too much, sensei? I say with a light chuckle. I have no favorites. I just haven't seen much of what you're capable of yet, so I simply have no expectations, he responds. Right. Well, I can assure you we will be ending this exam with 184 points, I respond, writing down the names of all class leaders on the paper Sakagami gave me. Promptly, Sakagami took the clipboard from my hand with a smile and led me to the shore. Let's hurry, or we will be late. After a short walk, we arrived. There were 3 groups of classes, but 4 ships were ready to lead students off the island. I have to go up on the stand with Mishima over there, but you can head to your spot. Results will be revealed in a second, Sakagami says, walking away. It seems I get to make a fashionably late entrance. Walking onto the beach, I could feel the surprise of multiple students. Hey, isn't that Yagami? But I thought Class C forfeited the exam? What's he doing here? Did Class C have someone stay on the island after all? Hey, Katsuragi, didn't you say Ryuan was likely the last one on the island? Yagami is here, but Ibuki isn't? I see Ryuan was never on the island. That's why he didn't meet with me. Well, it's not like it matters. Your class helped me gain over 500 points, so I thank you for your efforts, Katsuragi said after walking up to me. I almost laughed in his face. 500 points? Is this guy insane? He should be happy to make it out of this exam with 200. No offense, Katsuragi, but I think you should double-check your math, I responded. He frowned at my words. What do you mean? Well, I don't want to be rude, I said, looking behind him at his class and the other classes listening in on our conversation. Please don't hold back. Well, I think it's better if you figure everything out here yourself, I said before heading to the area for Class C, which was between Class A and D. As I arrived, the first thing I noticed was Karuizawa shyly waving at me nearby. I missed you, she whispered to me inaudibly. I gave her a quick wave back and a nod before I turned to look at her classmate, one who was staring at me keenly, Ayana Koji. It was natural. Every eye in the room was fixed on me with interest. Yet, among all the stares, Ayana Koji's gaze stood out, probably because I now knew his secret. Good morning, Ayana Koji, I said, scanning the faces in the Class D group. Is something the matter? No, it's nothing. Where's Horikita? She had to drop out, Ayana Koji responded calmly. I see. I hope she's all right. Before I could gather more thoughts, Mishima picked up a megaphone, his voice cutting through the students. All right, let's get to it. We will now reveal the results of this special examination. In last place, with 90 points, is Class D. Instantly, whispers erupted to my right. Faces from Class D turned pale with disbelief. 90? We definitely should have gotten more than that. Did we use more points than we thought? How did we get less than Class C? Could they have guessed our leader? A student said, attracting some attention to me. I simply smiled at the students in Class D. Mishima didn't pause, his voice building anticipation. Next, in third place, is Class A with 120 points. The shock on Katsuragi's face was priceless. Many of the normally composed students of Class A exchanged confused looks, trying to process the outcome. But seriously, 500 points? How delusional could one be? But this result was still intriguing. It seemed Class A's leader had been guessed or possibly sold out to another class, likely Class D, given that 90 points was still higher than I expected from them. Still, 120 points is also low for Class A. It seems like the Class A traders did a lot more than simply sell out their leader. Mishima's eyes scanned the crowd, the anticipation reaching a high. Now, in second place, is Class B with 140 points. Next, a wave of whispers passed through Class B. The students stared at each other, their expressions a mix of confusion and disappointment, although they did not reach the level of Classes A and D. The tension was finally at its highest as everyone held their breath for the final announcement, interested in Class C's results. Finally, Mishima paused for dramatic effect. In first place, Class C with 184 points. Silence overtook all the groups of students, while all I could do was awkwardly stand in my lane. Sensei, how is that possible? Everyone knows Class C did nothing but laze around during this exam. There's no way that's possible. Tatsuka, the cardholder of Class A, said, upset with the result of the exam. But Mishima didn't even bother to respond to him. How did you do it? Katsuragi asked, breaking the silence. I looked at him curiously before answering. I mean, it should be pretty self-explanatory, no? It was originally Ryuan's idea to give up on this exam and just figure out all the class leaders. But I took over his place to make sure the plan was executed perfectly. While my class was on the cruise ship, I was able to focus on occupying spots on the island for additional points. 150 points for guessing leaders and 34 for occupying different spots. Before Katsuragi could say anything, Ichinos responded with a smile. Congrats on your victory, Yagami. You make that all sound easy, but I'm sure it was difficult managing things in your class and traveling around the island. Thank you, but it was something anyone could have done, really. Most of the credit should go to Ryuan, Ibuki, and Kaneda, I responded. I think you're being modest. If it were so simple, you wouldn't have had to stay on the island. But I'm curious, do you mind telling us the leaders of every class? It doesn't seem like the school has any intentions to elaborate on the results of the exam. It's much easier to ask you than to ask around in other classes, Ichinos said. That's not a problem, Ichinos. Well, to start off, the cardholder of your class was Chihiro Shiranami. Class A's cardholder was Yahiko Tatsuka. My class's cardholder was me, as I alluded to, and Class D's cardholder was Susan Horikita, I explained, and Ichinos nodded. But Katsuragi responded to my explanation. That can't be right. I should have definitely finished with more points if you are correct, he said, looking at me and then at the teachers on the stand. I told you to redo your calculations, Katsuragi. Even if you're arguing, you should have finished with 50 more points. A second ago you were arguing. You should have had 500 points by the end of this exam. Where is the rest of the 300+ point differential? Are you mocking me? Katsuragi responded, clearly annoyed. Of course not. I'm just pointing out the facts, and the facts say that you likely aren't nearly as smart as you believe yourself to be. I don't mean that with any disrespect, but it's just to say don't overestimate yourself, I responded, earning glares from Katsuragi and some of his followers. The exam results have been double-checked. We can 100% guarantee the result's accuracy. If you are confused about your result, do some self-reflection, Mishima responded. I don't know about Class D, but Yagami definitely got Class B's cardholder correct, Ichinos said, addressing Katsuragi, likely in hopes of lightening the mood. Then Kushida spoke up next. Same goes here. Our cardholder was Susan Horikita. Hearing them, Katsuragi simply nodded his head. It seemed he would be thinking about the results of this exam for a while. And it also seemed, as expected, Ayano Koji didn't inform his class of the leader swap. I'll do you the small favor of not bothering you by revealing your identity as the cardholder of your class for entertaining me, even if it was for a short moment. Katsuragi soon spoke to me. Yagami, don't think I'll forget this, and I hope you also remember what you said here today, because if I ever get the chance to compete against you personally, I'll definitely make you eat your words. I welcome a challenge, Katsuragi, but if that time ever comes, I'll expect you to back your confidence with more than just mere words. And just like that, a trap had been set for Katsuragi in the future. He wasn't an aggressive figure in terms of how he goes about his actions for his class or his personality. No, on the other hand, he was very defensive, and that is something I could take advantage of in the future. Being a leader of Class A, I would certainly have to face him in the future, after all. Final thing with this exam, Class C has now been promoted to Class B, so congratulations, Class C. The class rankings are now as follows. Class A is in first place with 1124 points. Class C is in second with 813 class points. Class B is in third place with 803 class points. And Class D is in fourth with 90 class points. Good job to those who performed well in this exam. But remember, don't get complacent. All it takes is one mistake to lose everything you've built up as of now. The exam was over, so we promptly got off the island and headed to the ship. And to no surprise, the second I embarked, I had someone waiting for me. We need to talk, Ryuan said. It was a random room on the cruise ship with no cameras, and I doubted anyone would randomly walk by here. It was just me, Ryuan, and Albert. But I was confident I could get out of this situation unscathed. Worst case scenario, I doubted Albert would actually harm me. No, Ryuan brought him for intimidation. What's the problem, Ryuan? I asked. Cut the crap. I know what you did. I sighed at his words. If it means anything, I really do regret my actions. It's just, we needed to win this. Ryuan remained silent, grabbing a nearby chair and sitting on it. Fine. You're lucky I've had some time to cool down, so I'll hear you out, Ryuan said. Then I'll explain quickly. I'm sure you can fill in the holes. Class D knew you were the cardholder of Class C. They also knew and took advantage of the leader switching rules in the exam. If you continued the exam as a cardholder, Class D likely could have ended up with nearly 200 class points, and Class C would have ended up with 0, I explained. And when you refer to they, I assume you mean the Shadow Master of Class D. Horikita herself isn't smart enough to be this analytical and think this far ahead. That's right. Hearing me speak, Ryuan clenched his fist. So they were trying to make a laughingstock out of me? That pisses me off. And what pisses me off more is that I don't know the damn identity of the one pulling Horikita's strings. Ryuan looked up at me. But you do, don't you? You figured it all out, or else you wouldn't have achieved our optimal score on this exam. Who is it? Do you really want me to say? I prefer not to. And plus, I've had my bouts with them. Don't you want to challenge them directly yourself? I responded, knowing Ryuan's character. He sees himself as superior to everyone else in this school, unbeatable. I didn't think he'd let down a chance to challenge Class D's true leader like this. I guess that does sound like fun. Fine, I'll pull that little rat out of his hiding spot, Ryuan said with a smirk. Fine, Yagami, you've bought yourself another day of life, Ryuan said, standing up. I wouldn't normally say this, but working with you these last couple of months hasn't been bad, so thank you, I guess. He said. But right before leaving with Albert, he added something. You should visit Sheena. She's been depressed ever since she got here. But well, I'm out. With that done, I began to head to my room on the cruise ship to shower and change out of this tracksuit. After 3 minutes passed, Ryuk whispered to me, Light, someone is following us. They recently began, but they're pretty good at it. I slightly nodded my head, acknowledging Ryuk's words, and redirected my destination to the top deck of the ship. Quickly, I walked up the nearest staircase to me. Following that, I entered one of the lounging areas and took another staircase up to the highest accessible level of the cruise ship. After waiting a couple of seconds, I took action. You can come out now. There's no one here but us, I said, looking at the view of the ocean and island from the top deck. Was I that obvious? A bored voice said from behind me. No, on the contrary, you're quite impressive, I responded. Ayana Koji walked next to me and looked over the railing I was currently holding onto. The view is nice, he said. It is. Maybe you following me was a good thing, or else we may have both missed this. Silence was all I received in response. Actually, all we did was stand in silence for multiple minutes. For most, it would be overbearing, awkward, or annoying. But neither one of us seemed the slightest bit bothered. Does anyone else know? Ayana Koji finally asked. About your deep involvement in Class D? No, only I do. Although, I'll give you a warning, Ryuan will be hunting you down soon, and he can be quite relentless. I see. I'd prefer to keep things that way. I'd assume you are the true mastermind of Class C then, Ayana Koji responded, showing no care about his possible Ryuan situation. Sadly, I can only gain so much control in Class C with the hand I've been dealt. Is that so? I assume Ryuan does play a big role in your class, and I've heard he's quite forceful. He is, sadly. I am not capable of fighting back against him, but to be honest, I'm not interested in doing so anyway. I'm not a believer in violence. Plus, I do think while most of Ryuan's actions are rooted in some selfish reasons, he does mean some good. Is that so? You seem to be close with him, Ayana Koji responded. I wouldn't say that. I've gotten to know him, I guess, but that's all. I understand. Well, I'll handle him. Well, I'll I'll give you another friendly warning. Do whatever you want, but Ryuan won't accept an indirect loss, and he can also be quite persistent. Taking control of our class, he lost many times to Albert Yamada, but he kept coming to attack him constantly. At lunch, in the bathroom, on the staircase, on the street, even at his own home. Ryuan would come and wait. Their fight wasn't over until Ryuan won. Such a thing can result in high levels of anxiety and stress, as you can imagine, never knowing when you'll be in danger next. Unless you can do something about this attitude of his, he will continue looking for you. Even if you beat him, it won't mean he is done with you. Good luck, I explained, hoping that I could get Ayana Koji to help me take Ryuan down a peg or two. He hasn't been too much of a problem so far, but he could use some character development. I could see how that could make him a nuisance. Well, I'll take that into account, Ayana Koji responded. Well, if you need any help with him or with anything else, let me know. I will see what I can do for you, I responded. It was a strange experience calmly conversing with Ayana Koji. He seemed uncaring, relaxed. It's strange. These things in themselves weren't strange, but could I act like this if one of my plans were completely undermined? No, why am I doubting myself? I definitely could, but inside, I'd be seething. I'm curious, what do you feel right now, Ayana Koji? Are you truly uncaring, or is there something more? Do you simply not accept this as a loss because you're handicapped, given you are limited to supporting your class from the shadows? That can't be. Even in that situation, one would feel something. Even if I were somehow outwitted while handicapped, I would be frustrated. It makes me wonder what's going on in his mind right now. Why is he so calm? No, is he really calm to begin with? The only thing I could think of is that he truly hasn't felt like he has lost. Whether or not you win battles doesn't matter if you can't come out victorious in the war. That must be it. The mentality of someone who feels their success is a natural outcome of their actions, a kind of ingrained I haven't lost mentality. But to think those words and truly believe them are two different things. It takes an enormous amount of confidence, competency, and most importantly, adaptability. I should keep my guard up then. It seems like this likely won't be the last battle I will have with Ayana Koji or Class D. Soon, the loudspeakers of the cruise ship rang aloud, and a female voice could be heard. Congratulations to all students for their success and accomplishments during the deserted island special exam. Now that you've arrived back on deck, make sure to relax and enjoy the free commodities allotted to you. Ayana Koji and I looked at each other as the voice stopped but promptly continued. We understand all students just want to relax now, but we have deemed it necessary to inform all students of the next special exam you will be participating in soon, the high-stakes gamble special exam. The next special exam will be simple. There will be two groups of students in this exam, low rollers and high rollers. Each class will be able to dedicate 2 students to the position of high roller, while the rest of the students in the class will take on the role of low rollers. Both groups will be partaking in bets between each other, and the currency used in these bets will be class points. Interesting. Very different from the exam we just underwent, I said aloud. Yes, it seems it is possible for the results of this special exam to affect your total class points negatively, Ayana Koji responded. Low rollers will be limited to low-stake gambles, and each class will play 25 of these low-stake gambles a day over a 4-day period. Each low roller will be limited to a maximum of 5 low-stake games throughout the course of the exam. One victory in a low-stake gamble will earn the victor 10,000 private points and their class 1 class point. I see. So assuming the low rollers in a class achieve victory in all their games, a class can earn 100 class points and 1,000,000 private points. At least 25 members of a class would have to partake in low-stake gambles. High rollers, on the other hand, will be limited to high-stake gambles. Each class will play 2 of these high-stakes gambles a day over a 4-day period. Each individual high roller will be limited to a maximum of 1 high-stakes game per day, meaning 4 high-stakes gambles over the course of the exam individually. One victory in a high-stake gamble will earn the victor 500,000 private points and their class 50 class points. Interesting. These high-stake gambles can be a game changer. If a class wins all its high-stakes gambles, it would mean 400 class points and 2,000,000 private points. Those aren't insignificant numbers. Now, as per the details on how gambles are set up, with respect to low-stake gambles, 2 students must agree for a gamble to be accepted. After that, the terms of the game are either decided by the 2 students in front of a professor or a valid witness to the game terms. If students can't agree on game terms, the terms will be decided for you. Now, for high rollers, the same applies, only that a valid challenge to a high-stake game can't be declined. But the same logic applies to deciding the terms of the games. The voice took another pause before continuing. If a class doesn't play any of the mandatory 25 low-stake games, 1 class point will be forfeited per game that isn't played. High-stake games are a bit different. High-stake games will never occur simultaneously and will be broadcasted across the cruise ship for all to watch and will occur at a specified time between students and staff. If someone appears late to their game or doesn't appear at all, they will forfeit 50 class points. Low-stakes and high-stakes games will be recorded and witnessed by a school staff member. As previously specified, these games are gambles, so any forfeitures are equivalent to what would occur in a loss. In general, it is not advantageous to miss any games as it will be treated as a loss. I see. Every class should aim to play all 108 required games, or else they would just be accepting a meaningless loss. Moreover, in the case of a draw during any game, no reward or punishment shall be given out. This special exam won't formally commence until 3 days from today, but we urge you to take this time to formally declare your class's high rollers and your game dates and times if you so desire. Thank you for your patience, and we wish you all the best of luck. The high-stakes gamble special exam is interesting. I'll have to talk to Ryuan, but obviously, the high rollers of Class C will be me and Ryuan. It's best to limit the low rollers to 20 players. Of course, this could lead to sabotaging from other classes, but we could always substitute players, something we can't do with high rollers. Additionally, Class C doesn't have many intellectuals, so we are best off limiting our low rollers to 25 students. At least half of those students' jobs will be to aim for draws. The upper echelon of those 25 students can aim for gambles or games with only a win or lose outcome. It sucks being surrounded by so many incompetent idiots. If I were in Class A, I would be confident in my ability to claim at least 300 class points for my class. To achieve the same in Class C would be a dream. This is your class's chance to earn a lot of class points, I told Ayano after finishing my thoughts. You know it's not that simple, Ayano responded. He's right. This special exam may seem generous, but that's only if you can completely dominate your opponents. Otherwise, gaining 200 class points isn't easy since you have to worry about losses. Draws will play an essential role in this exam for some classes. Well, it would be possible if you partook in the exam as a high roller, I responded. I have no interest in doing so. Anyway, I should get going. I'll see you around, Ayano said, making his exit. I should probably meet Ryuan soon, but since I'll already be putting a hold on my relaxation time in my room, I should visit Sheena first. With that thought in mind, I retreated back to the lower levels of the cruise ship, where the individual student rooms were located. Soon, I arrived at my destination. Without much thought, I knocked on the door. There was no response, and I couldn't hear anything from the other side of the room. Maybe Sheena wasn't in there? No, Ryuan wouldn't have mentioned her if she was socializing outside, so I knocked again. Once again, nothing could be heard from the other side, so I tried a different approach. Sheena, are you in there? I asked loudly from the other side of the door. A few seconds passed before I received a response, Yagami. Who else would it be? Come on, open the door. I promised we would hang out once I got back on the ship, right? Soon, I finally heard some movement from the room until the door in front of me clicked open, and I could see Sheena's face gazing at me. Behind the door, Sheena was wearing purple pajamas. It seems like she's really just been in her room all day. She looked downward at my words. I'm sorry. What are you apologizing for? I wasn't there when you needed me. I'm supposed to be your friend but haven't been a helpful one, so I'm sorry for that. I should be the one apologizing to you, Sheena, not the other way around, I said in response, but Sheena shook her head. She looked at me seriously, responding, You poisoned Ryuan, which you should have never done, even if you knew he'd be fine. But, she paused, her expression saddening, I understand why you did it, so I don't know how mad I can be. T. So, Yagami, if you promise never to do something so drastic ever again, I promise to be there to help you whenever you need me. I want to be your friend, not just in words or when it's advantageous to me, but in every meaning of the word. I want a real friend, someone that not only I rely on but that relies on me. It's been bothersome. There's a lot to worry about in the class. Then there are things like classmates, midterms, tests, pressure from other classes, or now these special exams. All have a profound effect on our futures. And there's this pressure that if we fail, if I can't help and push the class up in rankings along with Ryuan, everything will be ruined. Everyone in this school came here for one reason. They heard about how it is the greatest school, essentially capable of making all your dreams come true. But then they learned that's only possible for those in Class A. The second that chance of achieving Class A turns into a faraway dream, the second Class C loses hope in me, and Ryuan, nothing in our class will be the same. So that's why sometimes I have to do whatever it takes to guarantee success. I looked at Sheena, who was silently listening to me, before continuing. It's annoying, but sometimes it's necessary. Sheena soon approached, giving me a hug. I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but I'm happy you are able to communicate like this. Of course. Friendship is a weird thing, and so are the people who desire it so deeply. It makes you vulnerable. To accept friends, you must weaken yourself, but some people still desire them deeply, like Sheena, who seems fixated on the idea of friendship. As Sheena embraced me and I did the same, I couldn't help but smile. It was perfect. Class C wasn't a class with hidden gems spread throughout. No, 80% of the class was garbage. That's why gaining even one person's support meant so much, especially if that person is someone like Sheena, arguably the third or fourth most capable member in Class C who had been rejecting the idea of providing the class her assistance. Well, until now. She will undeniably be a reliable asset in the future. Ding. As my interaction with Sheena was concluding, my phone rang aloud. But it wasn't just mine, it was Sheena's as well. It could only mean one thing: Ryuan was likely already plotting something for the upcoming special exam. Quickly, I detached from Sheena, and she did the same, looking at me before getting her phone. My conclusion was accurate. A meeting in 1 hour. Sheena asked, looking at her phone. Yeah, it seems Ryuan wants to begin preparing for this special exam. I imagine you heard the announcement just a bit ago, right? Sheena nodded her head. Yeah, although it's a bit strange. The idea of a gambling exam itself is weird. Isn't gambling supposed to be a luck thing? I couldn't help but chuckle at Sheena's words. Sure, luck factors into things, but depending on the kind of gamble you take or the manner you go about it, you can say gambling takes a level of skill. There's a mental aspect to gambling. It plays a big role when you are betting against another person. Then there is, of course, the importance of the setup of the gamble or game. It's why the saying "the house always wins" exists, because the odds are always in favor of the house whenever you gamble in a casino. Yeah, but isn't that the most important thing? The setup of the gamble? I mean, if you know the odds of your victory in a gamble, doesn't that mental aspect go away? Sheena asked. No, the mental aspect still plays an important role. You just have to know how to take advantage of that fact, I responded. Sheena didn't respond, but simply looked at me doubtfully. You don't believe me? Then how about this? Chances are I'll be selected as a high roller for Class C, meaning all my games will be broadcasted, I said, pointing at her TV. I'll prove it to you that the odds of success of a game or gamble becomes unimportant if you can win the mental battle. So just watch, all right? Sheena giggled. You don't even know who or what game you'll be playing in the future, but you seem so confident. All right, I'll be watching, so show me, all right? Of course. Anyway, I should get going now. I want to shower and change before this meeting we will be having. Well then, I'll see you soon, Yagami. Finally, we're all here, Ryuan said, staring down the class as we both stood on the stage of the auditorium where this meeting had been planned, waiting for everyone to arrive. Now that we're all here, stop talking and listen up, all of you. The empty auditorium we had taken control of quickly went silent as everyone sat down while Ryuan spoke on stage. Good, it seems I don't have to beat anyone today. Well, I'll take it everyone here heard the announcement of the next special exam. Who plans on participating in the next special exam? Ryuan asked. Quickly, every member of Class C's hands went up. You see, that's why you're all idiots, Ryuan quickly said, gazing down at all the students with their hands up. I guess not all of you, but those of you stupid enough to think you can contribute to the class. I couldn't help but agree with Ryuan. Many of those in the class really were delusional if they thought they were capable enough to be of any help in this exam. What Ryuan is trying to say is that it is most advantageous to limit our low rollers to as few as possible, and have only those confident or skilled partake in riskier games because a loss in a gamble will mean a loss of class points. The rest of the low rollers should just aim for ties, I explained. Ibuki quickly spoke up, alright, but how will you decide which 20 students will be low rollers? Obviously, deciding all by ourselves will be difficult, so I say Ryuan and I pick 5 students together to be low rollers, and you can consider those students leaders in a way who will decide who will partake in the low-stake gambles. Kaneda was next to speak. I see, that sounds fair. But what about the high rollers? Will you and Ryuan just claim those spots? Yes, I think that's the obvious choice. Although if someone wishes to argue for the position, I'd be willing to listen. As expected, when directly asked if they opposed anything, everyone remained silent. So Ryuan, who would you like to elect to be low rollers? Well, I think they performed well during the last special exam, so I say Ibuki and Kaneda are obvious choices, Ryuan responded. I agree. I think that Ibuki and Kaneda are great choices. I'm confident in their abilities to earn us class points. As for the other two, I think Manabe to Kito, and if she is okay with it, Sheena would make great choices, I said, looking at Sheena, who smiled and nodded. Alright, all 5 of you will make and lead a group of 3 students and coach them to achieve optimal performance in this exam. Simple enough, right? Ryuan asked, receiving nods from all the students whose names were mentioned. This saved us from picking out from the garbage of the class and leaving that to our elected generals. It's obvious that Yagami and I will both take Class C's high roller spots. If you have a problem with that, I would tell you to let me know, but truth be told, I really don't care. This is the way things will be, so don't bother complaining, Ryuan said, looking over the quiet class. Soon Ishizaki spoke up to ask a question. It may be early, but do you two know which high rollers you'll be challenging? I'm curious, and it's 50 class points we're talking about. I'm sure everyone wants to know to tune in. Ryuan smiled at the question, taking a second to think. I'm undecided still. What about you, Yagami? Well, I don't think I'll have much of a choice. Did you watch the broadcast of the deserted island exam results? I asked, addressing Ryuan and the class, who nodded their heads. Well, as you saw, Katsuragi basically publicly challenged me before this exam, and I accepted. I would seem like a coward if I ran now. I'm sure Katsuragi will challenge me to a high-stake game, so I'll likely end up playing Class A, I explained. Yabu questioned, Class A? Aren't you a bit worried, though? It could be risky, especially because it's one of the leaders of Class A, Katsuragi. Aren't you scared to lose? She asked, honestly concerned. Well, Katsuragi is capable, but I'm confident I'll win against him. You should just make sure to tune in and root for me, I responded with a smile. Although, I said, looking in Ryuan's direction, I hope you don't mind if I take some risks to achieve the optimal scenario for us. I don't care what you do, just try not to lose, Ryuan responded. Of course. Then I'll take it we are done here. I asked. Basically. Alright, for tonight's dinner, you should get the location in the class group chat. Show up. We will be celebrating our win and our promotion to Class B, Ryuan said. I see. Then I'll be there, I responded, exiting the auditorium after some socialization. Quickly, I returned to my room and got into the shower, finally enjoying being off the island. During my time in the shower, I couldn't help but wonder, knowing I would likely compete against them, who would the second high roller of Class A be? It was a given Katsuragi would be one, but the other one was a mystery. I'm sure at this point Katsuragi has come to suspect those in the Sakayanagi faction betrayed him, so he likely will be careful picking his high roller. I've heard Tatsuka is loyal to the Katsuragi faction, and there are others, of course. But honestly, having seen all first-year student evaluations and being able to evaluate him myself, I can say Tatsuka is an idiot. There's no difference between making him a high roller and making a member of the Sakayanagi faction one and hoping for the best. It'll be hard finding someone trustworthy enough to make a high roller, but capable enough not to get completely demolished against the likes of those like Ichinos, Ryuan, and Horikita. Although, I suppose, given the right situation, even a complete idiot can flip the odds of their success in their favor. Getting out of the shower, I changed into my regular school clothes before picking up my phone and entering my contact list to dial K. The phone barely got a chance to ring before she answered. Light? Is that you? I didn't want to bother you after the exam. I thought you might be tired like everyone else. Are you okay? I'm fine, Kay. Thank you for worrying, though. I just got out of the shower and thought I should call you, I responded. I wanted to talk to you too. Sadly, I was stuck in a dumb meeting with the rest of the class, Kay said in a tired voice. A meeting? I asked, playing dumb. Yeah, you know that new upcoming special exam? We've been tight on private points, but finally just acquired some class points during the last special exam, so everyone is worried about losing them now with this new exam, Kay explained. I see. Are you worried? Kay sighed before responding, I guess not having any money sucks, but that's not what really bothers me most. I see. My class also briefly discussed the special exam, but as you can imagine, decisions are made pretty quickly in Class C. So, Ryuan and I were quickly declared high rollers. I'm sure the information will be passed on to the teachers soon. I see. It must be hard having all that pressure on you. But if it's you, Light, I'm sure you can handle it. In the end, the high rollers for Class D were decided to be Horikita and Kushida. Kushida? I asked, slightly curious. I'm somewhat surprised. I expected it to be Horikita and Hirata, or even Yukimura. Well, it was originally between Kushida and Hirata, but since this is an exam about taking gambles, Hirata and the class thought Kushida was a better fit given math is her expertise, and it may play a part in the exam. As for Yukimura, he's smart, but honestly, he's just a bookworm. Nothing special, in my opinion. Although I don't really bother talking to him, I do get an air of superiority from him, so I can't say I really like him. The explanation Kay gave fits my opinion of Yukimura so far. But still, the best place to see someone's skills is in practice. I guess it can't help if Kushida has a more ingrained presence in her class and qualifications to take the role of high roller. It wasn't a bad strategy, though. Having your high roller be someone skilled in math at least assured you someone with good cost-benefit analysis skills is at the front of the riskier games of the class. I see. Well, I wish your class luck during this exam. You know, Kay, if you need points, you can just let me know. No. I don't want you to get in trouble with your class. And it's really okay. I have enough, plus most of the stuff on the cruise ship is completely free, so I'm fine. Don't worry. Alright, let me know if you need anything though, alright? Kay hummed before mumbling into the phone. Hey Light, are you free tonight? I was thinking we could do something before the special exam starts. I would love to, but sadly, I promised to celebrate Class C's victory in the special exam and class promotion with my classmates tonight. Oh, I see. How about after that? It will be late, but I have nothing to do after the celebration. Yes. After it is, then, Kay said, obviously excited. Alright then, I'll let you know the time later, I responded. Soon thereafter, Kay and I said our goodbyes. She was a helpful spy in Class D and had a lot of influence in the class. Sure, our relationship drew some unwanted attention to her from her class, but that much is to be expected, and it kept her happy. If I want control of the school, I must first gain control of the school year. If only I could have loyal followers like Kay in every class, but sadly, she is one of a kind in that regard, which is why I didn't mind our relationship even if it came with its downsides, both personally and publicly. Poor girl. I almost feel bad for her, Ryuk said jokingly after the call. Why would you say that? Well, you humans date people you love. Whether that's due to their traits or some other factor doesn't really matter. But that's beside the point. What I'm trying to say is while that girl may be in love with you, you aren't with her. That's one way to see it, I assume. But Ryuk, does it really matter? The end result in terms of Karuizawa is the same. No matter what, she will be in love and feel like she is loved, just like any other girl in a relationship. I'm not robbing her of anything. Tell me, Light, have you really ever cared for anyone in your life? Of course. My family. They're good people. I'd go far for them, I respond after a moment's thought. I see. I was never really sure. It's hard to tell with you. But I'm curious, if you met someone who embodied the traits of your family that you love, could you care for them too? That's a complex question to answer. I'll say it simply, I don't outright reject the idea, but no, I don't think I would. I see. I guess I'll leave it at that. I'll have to admit you're quite difficult to understand, Light. But then again, that's what makes you interesting. Congratulations to all of you. It's rare for Class C to achieve such a dominant position in class rankings so early on. It's even rarer for Class C to overtake Class B so soon in the year, Sakagami said to us as our food began to arrive. Really? I wouldn't think it would be something that crazy. In the student council, I've heard Nagumo was originally a Class B student who ascended to Class A pretty early on, I responded. Yes, I suppose that's true. But usually, competition between classes is pretty predictable. Class B typically ends up competing with Class A, and the same is true between Class C and D. The differences between these two groups of classes are usually obvious, and that's the reason why no Class C or D has ever reached Class A, Sakagami explained to the class. Ishizaki spoke next. Come on, let's stop with the boring talk. We are here to celebrate, after all. Don't be an idiot, Ishizaki. Sakagami just gave us some useful information, Ibuki said, berating Ishizaki. Before an argument occurred, I spoke up. It's all right. Sakagami said what he had to. Plus, I want to relax and celebrate with all of you too, before the next exam starts. I raised my cup, and others did the same in response, clinking it with those near them. To Class C, I said, and everyone repeated. Soon, everyone was engaged in some talk and enjoying the food offered by the ship. Hey Yagami, one of the girls, Yamashita, said to get my attention. Do you think we can reach Class A if we do well in this upcoming special exam? Her question drew the attention of my classmates, who now had their focus on me. Well, it's complicated. Theoretically, it is possible, but honestly, it isn't likely, I said, noticing some disappointed faces. Don't be disappointed. I never said it was impossible. At the very least, if we do perform well, we will completely separate ourselves from Class B. Remember, we are currently only 10 class points ahead of them, and we will likely also be neck and neck with Class A. Is that so? From behind me, a voice echoed, catching my attention and that of all my classmates. It was Katsuragi. I was told Class C was here celebrating their singular victory instead of focusing on the next special exam. Earlier, you called me overconfident, but are you sure it isn't you and Class C who are overconfident? Well, it was an important victory for us. There is nothing wrong with appreciating my work and the work of others in the class. But that isn't what you came here to talk about, right? I said, looking over his shoulder to see the Class A teacher, Mishima, by his side. No, it isn't. I heard you were here, and so I wanted to extend my formal challenge to you in this upcoming special exam before either of us is challenged by someone else and left unable to reject, Katsuragi explained. I see. Well then, would you like to take this discussion outside? If that's what you prefer. At those words, I gave Sakagami a look, and he simply nodded and stood from his seat as I stood and exited the venue with Katsuragi. As we walked out of the restaurant, I took note of the large number of members of Class A who could be seen grouped up outside the door. It seemed Katsuragi had picked up on the hints needed to maintain some control in his class. Are you surprised? Katsuragi asked, proceeding to walk away from the students as Mishima and Sakagami continued to follow us. I knew you'd figure it out, but I'll be frank, you did so a bit quicker than I had expected, I responded honestly. Humph, well, I didn't want to believe anyone would betray the class over an internal dispute, but it seems the students of Class A are taking this dispute seriously. Some of them really don't seem to want me in power. But keeping the class in check has been simple enough. I should be able to maintain some control for the upcoming exam, Katsuragi explained. Oh? I wouldn't expect you to be so open about this situation. If you don't mind me asking, then how have you managed to maintain your position in your class so soon after that major loss on the island exam? Well, obviously, my classmates were outraged with the results of the exam, given how many points I had promised. But I was sure the amount of points I expected was a plausible amount. It could only mean one thing. Someone was sabotaging the class in hopes of sabotaging me. For the many high achievers of Class A, sabotaging the class over a simple leadership debate would obviously cause outrage. I see, so you made it public that the supporters of the Sakayanagi faction purposely sabotaged your class in the last exam. However, that strategy only works if you can prove you were sabotaged or that there are traitors. Otherwise, you're just making baseless claims, I responded. True, but I think you know that I could easily prove I was sabotaged. In our last exam, anyone could make use of camp points, no matter who they were. Therefore, anyone could know how many points the camp had at any given time for themselves. I had witnesses to the amount of points we had accumulated in Class A. After that, before Katsuragi could explain, I continued his sentence. And after that, you just needed a few scapegoats to draw attention to. It doesn't matter if they are truly traitors or not as long as the class believes they could be. You could be fairly confident that about half of the class, including your followers, didn't sabotage you. So you just threw the suspicious members of the other half of Class A under the bus, thereby making the class focus on them and their actions for the near future. Yes, Hashimoto and Komuro were the two easiest to present as traitors to the class, given their disappearance during the special exam and other factors, so I'm fairly sure my guess about them is correct. Either way, during this test, those in the Sakayanagi faction wouldn't dare to sabotage the class, especially since it won't do much harm to my faction anymore now that the class is suspicious of their actions. But you suspected all this would happen at some point, didn't you? Katsuragi asked as we reached the outdoor bar area of the ship, which was primarily meant for teachers and staff. Haha, was I that obvious? I asked in response. You essentially suggested I look into my class's 300+ point differential for my expected outcome, and then you implied that this miscalculation on my part was because I overestimated myself. Obviously, this differential was due to internal problems, but by saying I overestimated myself, you are basically explaining to me that Sakayanagi was the reason behind my defeat. After all, in all of Class A, she is the only one on my level. The very fact you knew Class A's leader was also a hint. Class D apparently guessed our keycard holder, but I doubt they'd work with Class C. The members of Class C never interacted with us, so the only way you could gain such knowledge is if it was handed to you. So, in a way, while you are partly a reason for my failure, I guess I should thank you. There are still a few things that do confuse me though. What is it? I'm still confident the leader of Class D couldn't have been Susan Horikita. Class D must have switched their leader between the 6th day when you showed me their keycard and the 7th day of the exam results. But I don't understand how you figured this fact out on such short notice, why you lied and claimed the card holder of Class D was still Horikita, and why Class D insists this is true, Katsuragi commented, looking at me, awaiting a response. Maybe you're just thinking too much into this, Katsuragi. Tisk, fine. Keep your secrets to yourself. But then tell me, why did you help me and give me those hints on my class situation? You could have remained quiet, or you could have even slandered me to embolden the Sakayanagi faction, assure my defeat against her in the future, and invalidate my words. But you didn't do that. Previously, I thought it was because you saw yourself as being so superior to me that it wasn't necessary, but I am no longer sure. The truth is complicated, I said, looking at Katsuragi and then the two teachers still near us. Let's just say I want what's best for the school and everyone in it, and I don't think your defeat to Sakayanagi, especially in that manner, is a positive thing. And all around, Katsuragi, I'll admit I think you're a good person, so I want to see you succeed, I responded with a smile. Well, there's also the fact Class A is an easier target to overcome while there is an existing power struggle. A unified Class A will be more than an annoying opponent, so I can't let you be defeated so early on. If you continue letting your emotions get the best of you, you'll have a hard time ascending from Class C, Katsuragi responded after a moment. Is that really true, though? I haven't let go of my morals, and we've already made it to Class B, so Class A isn't impossible. I think everyone in Class C, can reach Class A while at the same time maintaining a level of respect for others, I exclaimed. It's a noble thought, although I think it's idealistic. But you're right, your class has accomplished a lot. Although, I wouldn't claim all of Class C has been moral. Ha ha ha, I guess you're right. Ryuan will come around, though. Katsuragi just nodded his head after hearing my words. Anyways, let's get into the real topic of discussion, the game we will be playing. And here I thought we were having a friendly moment, I responded. We were, but that doesn't invalidate the score we have to settle. Plus, as the new Class B, shouldn't Class A naturally be the ones to teach you your place? I let out a soft chuckle before Katsuragi continued. So then, do you have any suggestions for games? Or will we do some simple card game like poker? Or do you want me to present my idea? Personally, I would prefer to decide on this without the teacher's intervention. Now that you say something, I guess I have an idea for a game you'd be willing to partake in, I responded. Well then, continue. I'll listen to what you have to offer, Katsuragi said, and now Sakagami and Mishima's eyes were completely on me. It seemed they'd take their job of witnesses seriously, meaning every detail of what I say will matter. Well, how about a coin game? A coin game? Katsuragi asked curiously. Yes, quite simple. We will each have a coin, and like all coins, it will have two sides, heads and tails. The goal of the game will be straightforward. I will have one of two win conditions unknown to you and randomly given to me, either to get you to accept the coin or get you to decline it. Essentially, if my win condition is for you to accept my coin, you would have to decline the coin to win. And if my win condition is for you to decline, you would want to accept. Are you requesting a game of pure luck? The chances of victory are exactly 50-50 in this game. Even if there is a mental aspect, honestly, I didn't think you would request something so boring. I'm not interested in this. Wait, Katsuragi, you didn't let me finish, I said, cutting him off. You didn't even ask how the win conditions are decided, I continued with a smile on my face. A draft lottery. That's how win conditions will be given. Inside a box, there will be 4 papers with the win conditions stated on them. 2 will have something like accept coin written on them, and the other 2 decline coin, but these only outline my win condition. Katsuragi now seemed a bit intrigued. So why 4? When the game commences, you will be handed a random paper from the lottery box. But you said these papers only outline your win condition? Exactly. You said you didn't want a game of complete chance, right? So once you get your random paper, I will get handed mine stating my win condition, the real win condition. Ryuk seemed surprised the more I spoke. Light, are you sure about this? You are handing this guy the advantage in this game. I'm not great at math, but to me, it seems like he has a 67% chance of victory. Is that all? Katsuragi asked, looking for more clarification. No, there's a bit more. At any point in the game, you'll have the option to receive a third draw from the lottery box. But if you do so, I'll be given the chance to add either of the 2 win condition papers from my table into the lottery box. We will call these trick papers, I explained. I see. After we both do our initial draws, there will only be 2 papers in the lottery, so you'll be able to add a trick paper to stop me from achieving a guaranteed win, as I won't be able to tell which of the 2 possible win conditions you added. It makes this a mental game, but if one can win the mental aspect, they'd likely be the victor. But still, you underestimate me too much if you are putting the advantage of this game into my hand, Katsuragi responded. There's just a bit more. There will be a third participant in this game if that's allowed, I said, looking at Sakagami and Mishima until one responded. It is certainly allowed. As long as both high rollers agree to the rules of the game, other students can be forced into participation, although they won't gain any rewards on behalf of the school, Mishima responded. Good. Well, this third participant will be in a party of their own, I continued. What do you mean by that? Katsuragi asked. It will be a random participant selected by the school from either Class B or Class D. I think that's fair, given our lack of affiliation with those classes. Anyway, this participant will be a third party. They can go the whole game without doing anything, but they will have 2 abilities, so to speak. They can, at any point, request to see a trick paper or instead check all papers in your possession. What they do with any information they receive if they use this ability is up to their discretion. You really are bold, Yagami, you know that? This game you've set up is blatantly disrespectful towards me. From giving me the advantage of the initial draw to adding in a third participant who is in all ways more detrimental to you than me, you do understand, right? Worst case scenario, if I can't get a reading of you, I remain with a 66.67% chance of victory. Maybe I'm just trying to get in your head? Did you ever think about that, Katsuragi? Maybe I've just started playing the psychological aspect of our game early. Early? Ha! Our game has a static win percentage. You can only do so much mental play. Fine, Yagami. I'll accept your coin game. But before that, we have something else to discuss. On the island, you told me you expect me to back my actions with more than just mere words if I ever challenge you. So why don't we both put something on the table here? What do you want, Katsuragi? I asked. The contract I made with Class C and Ryuan. I want it gone if I win our little game. It will be nothing but a hindrance given our less than optimal exam performance. I remained silent. What? You were beaming with confidence a moment ago. Don't tell me. Fine, I'll accept. But in all honesty, You don't really have anything I want, Katsuragi, I said, getting both teachers' and Katsuragi's attention. What's that supposed to mean? Katsuragi asked. It means requesting points would be worthless at the moment because running Class A into poverty isn't an easy feat, especially given they've already accumulated a decent amount. It would take too long, and that's not even considering how Class A will likely gain private points in this upcoming exam. Not only that, but I don't care much for points at the moment. There's also the fact I don't want the Katsuragi faction to lose all its power. I don't want to deal with a unified class just yet, so I can't take too much from Katsuragi. How about this then, Katsuragi? If I win, you'll work with me. Are you asking me to betray my class? Katsuragi asked with a frown. No, nothing like that. I told you I want the best for this school and every class in it. I want to make a small group of like-minded individuals in this way, I explained to Katsuragi, extending my hand to him, but he didn't take it. One final push was necessary. Of course, there will be other incentives too. Katsuragi, I know there's a lot I haven't explained. It's not that I don't want to tell you, just that I can't. But if you join me, you'll learn everything. The secrets of the student council and school and the reason behind your rejection to the student council. I needed Katsuragi to decide to join me because he was genuinely intrigued by what I had to offer, not simply because he had been forced into it by a game. Otherwise, he'd be useless. Secrets? Katsuragi asked, and I simply nodded. What are these other incentives you speak of? Well, you'd, of course, get my assistance whenever you require it and a guaranteed transfer to class before graduation. Do you really have the capital for that? Katsuragi responded unbelievingly. Without responding to Katsuragi's question, I simply took my phone out and showed him how many points I had in my account. It wasn't like it was confidential information. If one learned how much was taxed in Class C from a student, they could easily come to a rough estimate. 8.1 million? There's no way those are all your points, Katsuragi responded. They're not, as you may have suspected. They are my classes, but I can use them however I wish as long as my use of them is to the benefit of the class. Are you that confident in your Class C's ability to reach Class A? Katsuragi asked. Yes, it may be difficult to maintain. We may fluctuate in position, but we will definitely achieve Class A. Fine then. If you win our game, I'll join your little group. Good, then it seems everything has been decided, I said, looking at Sakagami and Mishima. Mishima quickly responded, this is what I have. There will be 3 participants in this game. Kohei Katsuragi, Light Yagami, and a randomly selected participant from Class B or D. The materials used in this game will be a coin, a lottery box, for lottery papers with win conditions, and 2 fake lotteries. Light's goal is outlined in his initial draw, to get Katsuragi to accept or decline the coin. Katsuragi's goal is to deduce and act contrary to Light's win condition. 2 of the lottery papers will have the win condition to accept the coin, and the other 2 papers will say decline the coin. Katsuragi will be given a note from the lottery first, then Light will be given his stating his win condition. Katsuragi can request a 3rd draw at any time. If so, Light is given the opportunity to add one of 2 trick papers to the lottery box. The 3rd participant can request to be shown a trick paper or can check all papers in Katsuragi's possession instead. The outcome of the game is determined by whether Katsuragi's choice aligns with or contradicts Light's win condition. I took into account all details. Does this all sound correct? Mishima did indeed take into account the details of the game. When I was explaining the game, I was testing for this to see how detail-oriented the judges and games would and could be, and it seemed that every detail of the game would be accounted for. Yes, it sounds good, I responded to Mishima, and Katsuragi nodded his head. Well then, what time will the game commence? Sakagami then asked. Katsuragi responded, what's the latest time? 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. is the latest, Sakagami replied. We will take it. I want to ensure everyone sees my victory over you, Katsuragi said mockingly. Well then, Sakagami and I will report the details of what we've spoken of here and begin preparations for your game, Mishima said before making an exit. Sakagami and Katsuragi also took this opportunity to leave. I don't get it, Light. Was there something I missed? It seems like you just handed Katsuragi the advantage with no strings attached with no way to get it back. There's some catch, right? Like somehow things will mathematically work out to your advantage. Ryuk asked. Not really, Ryuk. It's a pretty simple game. Given that, I couldn't hide a way to gain an advantage. Then why? Is this really all to prove a point to Katsuragi and the other classes, or because of what you said to Shina? It's 50 class points you're risking, after all, so I'm curious. A bit, but neither of those is the main reason. Ryuk, it's simple. I chose to play Katsuragi the way I did because it's the easiest road to victory. As Ryuk hummed, I took out my phone to message Karuizawa and inform her I was free. Ayana Koji, rethink your decision. If you challenge Yagami, you'll definitely lose. So what am I supposed to do? He humiliated me, Class D, and the other classes, and he didn't even seem to break a sweat in the process. Am I just supposed to stand by and accept that? Horikita responded. That would be the wiser option, but sadly, I can't say that. Horikita, you're smart. I'm confident that with enough time, you can compete with whoever you desire, but now just isn't the right time, I told her. Horikita's hands balled up as she took on a look of contemplation. Could you beat him? She then asked. Sorry. If you were a high roller competing against him in this exam, could you win? I was thinking of giving Horikita a simple answer like, I'm not certain, or it would be close, but I decided to take a moment to consider her question. I'm not currently operating at my maximum potential. I never thought anyone could make me operate at that level, but if I was forced to compete against Yagami, that much would be necessary. Still, could I be 100% sure I'd win? I'm not sure. It would be close. After some contemplation, I responded, not because it was an easy out, but because for one of the first times in my life, I truly meant those words I was saying. Horikita was right. Everything he did seemed effortless, as if it came naturally to him. It makes me question how much control Ryuen really has over Class C. What bothers me most is how I fell into his trap during the last special exam. The human mind is fascinating. I've been holding back because I wanted to be defeated, to prove that man wrong. When I first arrived, I thought it was impossible, but maybe he was right. Defeat might be impossible for me now. It's been a while since I'd lost, but now I remember what it's like to lose, and I don't want to experience that again. At the same time, I don't want to prove him right, and I want to live a normal life. It's a contradiction. I thought I could do it, but with Yagami around, it seems I can't have it all. I can't win like this, and while that proves him wrong as I desire, I don't want to accept defeat. But how can I enjoy a peaceful life? To continue with my peaceful life or to revert to what I know? I guess a completely peaceful life was never truly possible. Chabashira made that clear. Things were always going to end like this. If ever threatened, if it meant survival, I would have reverted without a second thought. So then what should I do? Horikita asked. Just wait. If you really want to challenge him, you'll get a chance. Either way, it's likely Katsuragi already challenged him if you remember their talk this morning. Think of that as a blessing of sorts. You'll be able to get an opportunity to see Yagami in action during this exam and prepare to challenge him if you wish. Horikita nodded her head. Then I'll challenge Ryuen instead. It was another person currently out of her league, but more realistic than Yagami if my assumptions about Class C are correct. I can't prove that Yagami is masterminding everything in his class, but someone like him can't just be controlled unless he really is naive. Plus, with our truce with Class B, it was hard to challenge them even though we will be forced to. And Katsuragi was a taken opponent, leaving only AI Morishita, the second high roller of Class A, and Ryuen. AI Morishita, did you see the details and terms of the game between Katsuragi and Yagami Morishita? Kamuro asked me. Indeed, I had my interest piqued and looked through them, I responded. Light Yagami is an interesting figure. He's had my interest wholly piqued since our encounter in the previous special exam. So, what did you think? It was an intriguing game idea, although I must admit, strange. I know, right? Why would he give up the advantage in a game like that? Who do you think will win? Kamuro then asked. Ah, I see you are worried about your Sakayanaji faction. Are you worried Katsuragi may actually win and gain a one-up on Sakayanaji? Kamuro's silence answered all my questions, so in return, I gave her a response. Yagami will win. Huh? How are you so sure? Do you know what he's planning? I haven't the slightest idea, but speaking to him, I can tell he's smart. So unless he plans on losing on purpose, he wouldn't set up a game like this, I responded confidently. That's weird logic, but I guess it kind of makes sense, Komuro said, letting out a sigh. I hope you're right. But anyway, who do you plan on challenging? I already sent out my challenge. My only options were the two leaders of Class B, as challenging Class D would have left them without any competition. Not that I'm upset about that. So who did you pick? I thought Ichino's would be the most interesting option. She is one of the most renowned class leaders, after all, I responded, leaving Komuro to nod her head. Ryuan, help you expel Horikita, huh? I think to myself, smirking. It might seem like a hassle, but trust me, it'll be worth it. I'll help Class C in return. If you play along, I can guarantee you 50 class points, just like that. Or if you target Horikita, I can give you her strategy for your game. That could easily net your class 100 points, Kushida says, smiling. I see. Not a bad deal. I get a rat in Class D, and you get rid of a pest. But there's something I want just as much as class points in Class D. Kushida looks curious. Oh? What's that? The mastermind in your class, the one pulling Horikita's strings and leading your class from the shadows. You must have some idea who it is, I explain. But all I get is a confused look from Kushida. What are you talking about? It seems you really don't know. How annoying. Fine, you have a deal. You help Class C and give us information, and in return, we'll help with your Horikita problem. Sounds great. Oh, but what about Yagami? Kushida asks, putting a finger on her chin. He doesn't seem like the type to agree with my idea. He doesn't have to know. I control most of Class C. He's unnecessary. Just leave it to me and keep your part of the deal. Okay then. I'll do my best to help you, so I hope you do too, Kushida says before leaving. What an idiot, I whisper, taking out my phone to message Yagami about what just occurred. Kenzaki, is all this planning really necessary? One of the students in Class B asked, raising their hand. I mean, we aren't even planning for any of the upcoming games, but just a possible one. We all understand Yagami is capable, but is all this necessary to prepare for one person? Ichino's quickly responded, well, Class C is our main competitor, especially now that they overtook us in the rankings. Plus, just because we're designing this game to defeat Yagami doesn't mean we can't use it against anyone else. Ichino said that, but I knew the real reasons behind designing this game. Yes, it was truly a game with the main purpose of being played against Light Yagami, a game Class C, Ichino's, and I should understand like the back of our hand. Why? Well, what Ichino's previously said was part of the reasoning, but the true reason is to instill a sense of hope. Yagami is a beloved figure, but it's to the point that he is seen as perfect by many in the school. The fact that he's never scored below 100 on any test is charismatic and adored, and apparently ranks the highest in his class in terms of fitness, just serves to amplify this. After the final special exam, in which he alone was the last one from his entire class left on the island and seemingly single-handedly beat 3 classes, his image as invincible only soared further. This image of perfection makes him seem unbeatable. It's not good for anyone to see someone they have to face as infallible, whether they are facing them individually or as a group. In a way, this was a game with the hopes of breaking down Yagami's seemingly impenetrable armor. Yes, but the game is still being made specifically to be used against him. What if someone else just challenges Yagami before we get the chance? Another student asked Ichino's. Ichino's shook her head. That won't happen. Yagami will play Katsuragi first, so he's unlikely to play him after that. Either way, I plan on making a deal with Class A to stop them from challenging Yagami, and Class D is our ally, so they will be easier to dissuade. I'm even hoping to get Horikita's assistance in planning this game, Ichino said, looking at the board. On the board, the words Random Lottery Number Elimination Game were written in big letters, and the numbers 1 through 10 were also written with information on the game's functions, as well as the phrases 5x and 1/2. Yagami will have no choice but to accept our challenge. He won't have any other options, and unless he wants to play the randomly chosen game by the school, he will accept our game, Ichino's continued with a smile. And what if he just lets the school randomly select the game? Another student asked. He won't. You know the saying, better the devil you know than the one you don't. Our game isn't inherently unfair to Yagami. He will have no reason to decline it for a game that could, for all he knows, be completely random, especially since accepting a known game will give him time to prepare, Ichino's explained. Once Yagami plays his first game against Katsuragi, we will be able to put the final touches on our game, given our understanding of him. It was the best way to construct a game in our favor, both in terms of understanding and play. There's no point in worrying, Kay. If you think about it, we're just playing games. I guess so. Maybe I'm just overly worried, Kay says, sighing before looking up from her food at me. I'm curious, though. We're essentially playing games, but people cheat in games. Does that mean cheating is on the table in this exam? It's probably in the low-stakes games, but I doubt it in the high-stakes ones. The rules will be more defined and broadcasted to everyone on the ship. It would be too risky. Kay stares at me as she drinks her drink before speaking again. Well, you have me, so you don't have to take that risk. If I learn anything useful, I wouldn't mind telling you. It's not like it would have much impact on Class D at this point. You should worry more about yourself. I'll be all right in the end. But how are things in Class D? Honestly, not much has happened since the high rollers were picked. I've heard from my friends in other classes that they've been making game plans for the high-stakes games together, but Class D hasn't done any of that together, although Horikita and Kushida have been planning things together as the leading figures in this test. Oh, so they've been planning games out. Interesting, I say aloud. Class C hasn't been planning either? I shake my head. Planning isn't a bad idea, but it's not how we do things. You know, I miss this. I don't think we've gone out like this in a while, especially in a nice restaurant like this. Well, soon we'll be able to hang out like this more often, I respond to her with a smile, leaving her blushing slightly. For now, everything was in place. Soon, I'd be playing Katsuragi. After that, who knows what's to come, but it's nothing to worry about.
And that concludes this episode. If you enjoyed it, I'd seriously love it if you guys could leave a like on the video, as it genuinely helps out so much, and it keeps me going, plus it takes only 1 second. That said, have a wonderful day. See you in the next one.